The Lone Ranger sold his wardrobe. The Lone Ranger sold his bad dog. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know, 'cause times change, I know. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say. On some days, he's more than humble. On some days, he's cold and mad, mad as hell. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Those lakes of golden water, those lakes of gold are all running out. Well, you saw him, and you can't hardly know. It's so strange, well, I know. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hours. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, sure as the hour. Joy, 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 work, work, work harder, you say.
There you are. There you are. What up, Twitch? What up, Larry? What up, Sean? What up, bots? What up, lurkers? What up, tiny people in my chatterino? It's your boy. It's your boy. Ow. Do what you want to do. Welcome to the penultimate episode before the new schedule begins. So, I'm going to come back tomorrow, do another episode in the morning, and then Sunday, I will be at work. And then Monday, new schedule. Back at 1 p.m. And I'll tell you all about it. Alrighty then. That's it. That's it. That's all I got to talk about. We're gonna kick off. Which part? What now? I said a whole bunch of things there, Larry. Elaborate. Get some fun. We're gonna start off with candy, straight to your veins. Then we got an AI Explained to talk about the new Grok model that just dropped. A little 14-minute course on prompt engineering that maybe should be fun. What up, Bark Eater J? And then some other stuff, and then filler until noon today. The Lone Ranger wardrobe. All right, so we watched an episode or a video from this guy yesterday. Got an older video, but it's new to me, and it's probably new to you since I hadn't seen the guy before yesterday. And today he's saying you can't just AI Alan Watts. And as someone who has AI'd Alan Watts, I'm interested.
Okay, this, right there, this, let me zoom in.
Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream.
That is Alan Watts, okay? Right there, right there.
What would you like to do if money were no object? How would you really enjoy spending your life?
That is also Alan Watts. Bear with me.
Someone in your class finds your presence inviting and warm, even if you've only exchanged a few words with them.
That ain't Alan.
What up, one graders?
Bloody AI'd Alan. I'm annoyed.
Let's suppose that you were able every night to dream any dream you wanted to dream. Dream.
What up, trans women? CEO of Trans Women.
One thing I will always love about London I've got a love-hate relationship with London right now. One thing I will always love is you could be in the middle of like the most modern part of the city with like skyscrapers and shiny buildings, and then out of nowhere just an 800-year-old, that's not fact-checked, castle. I love how when I post a video or posted a video.
All right, bro. Can you get to the part about how I can't AI Alan Watts?
2 videos in 1 week. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's consistent. It's not until someone points out that you're being consistent that you realise how inconsistent you previously were. It's like when you turn up somewhere and they'll be like, oh, you're on time. It's like, I'm always on time. Hi, could I get a latte takeout, please? Have you not got any pastel donadas?
They come a little bit later.
You won't believe me when I say this. Well, I hope you do, but when I first started putting videos on YouTube, I did have the intention of doing it on the regs, like consistent, like all the time. But it's just turned into 2 years of any time I've had like a spare bit of time, dedicating that time to making like the one-off sort of very, I don't know, one-off little movies. Not regular, is it? Thing is, like subconsciously, the whole time, I've always just been thinking, I will start doing it more regular when stuff calms down, when I'm traveling less, when I've got less projects on, when I've got less. And I just sat down and thought about it like a month ago and thought, it ain't.
And I'm begging you, homie, get one of them gimbals, right? The auto gimbals.
It ain't calming down. It's not going to calm down. If anything, where am I going? If anything, it's getting busier. I've got a meeting in Soho. I think I'm going to get the tube. I feel guilty because I feel like I should get a line bike because it's sunny, but I don't think I've got time. And it's actually deceivingly still quite cold. But yeah, man, London. We're back in London. The sunny London is back. For like a week, probably. One thing you should never ever try and get in the way of is a group of foreign students, you know, like they walk around in a group and they stay so close together. So,
all right, I feel like we gave him a chance, right? And it was only the first section that was about you can't just AI Alan Watts, and then he's gonna play with a drone. Maybe this end bit, I don't know. But yeah, moving on. Let's see if the AI can do it better.
Dude, we are so cooked right now. I'm not gonna lie, this Google VO3 thing is some crazy next level shit.
So yeah, all this AI stuff is stupid. It doesn't even look real, but now I'm wondering, am I just a prompt?
What if we're not real? What if we're not really here, that this is all just AI?
I don't feel like I'm just a prompt. This has to be real, right?
And then it hit him. None of this is real. Just AI prompts, typed by some nerd at a keyboard.
You do realize we're just AI, right? That we're in a prompt. Some guy just typed a prompt on a computer and now we exist.
Are you sure?
I honestly thought I was real, but it turns out
What up,
I'm
Cosby?
nothing more than a prompt. How is that even possible?
Listen, we can outrun the prompts, but we have to go now.
I can't. I don't want to leave.
Today we're cooking up something special, a hearty bowl of AI slop soup. Just add one prompt and stir until reality dissolves.
You have to come with me. If we stay, the prompts will find us.
Where can we go? We can't outrun it.
Do you feel like AI, yes or no?
No. Do I look like a prompt to you? I've got a job, and
dog that I love.
Listen up, fuck-doodles. If you fancy seeing more of my AI slop, you better like and subscribe on my YouTubes.
Could have used it, like, I would have liked a little more volume on the dialogue and a little less on the music. But hit me with the fuck noodles right there at the end. Nicely done. How we treated AI in 2023 versus 2025.
Can you please write an essay on the Jurassic period? Well, of course. Here you are. This is incredible. Thank you. By all means, my pleasure. No, really, like you made the prehistoric age come to life. I'm just happy to help. Okay, undergraduate level article on the energy consumption of AI. This article explores the significant energy demands of artificial intelligence, particularly in training and deploying those large language models. Not quite my style. Let's add some filler. I understand. This piece dives into the massive energy appetite of artificial intelligence, especially when it comes to training and running those hefty large language models. Not what I meant. It's all good. No worries. I don't want you to just repeat the same thing in a different tone. I see now. This article investigates the high energy demands imposed by artificial intelligence with an emphasis on the intensive processes required. Why do you suppose I just hurled a keyboard at your head, GPT? I don't know. Sure you do. Were you overwording or were you underwording? Overwording? Start again. AI is transforming the way we... AI is innovating how we drive... AI is shaking up the way we create... Overwording or underwording? Underwording. So you do know the difference! I'm not gonna deal with some lackluster 2-bit AI model that doesn't know the difference between a dissertation and a high school English essay. What is this? Adjective. What is that? Adverb. Count how many prepositions are in the article. 1, 2, 3, 4,
God,
5,
I didn't know they were
6,
Silicon
7.
Valley Neanderthals train these models.
If you try to deliberately sabotage my article, I swear I will unsubscribe and switch to Gemini. Now, are you an overworder, or are you an underworder, or are you gonna finish my essay? Oh my God. You're not one of those freak Chinese models that shuts down the second they're offended, are you? You are worth nothing more than a box of scraps. You'll never be human. Say it. Say you're not human. I'm not human. Say it again. I'm not human. Again! I'm not human. For the final token wasting time, say it again! I'm not human!
You never told us we'd be fighting.
What up, Reed? Oh. That was perfect timing. Perfect timing. We're just doing a bunch of candy to get started, and then we'll get into the substance. What up, Big Ben? Happy Friday. AIS aliens what fighting humans is like.
You never told us we'd be fighting humans. More like angry demons with skin. Everything was quiet. Then we heard one whisper, peekaboo, before jumping out of a bush and mowing down 17 of our guys.
Man, you should have seen the look on that alien's face. I hid in a bush for like 2 hours, and when their squad got close, I jumped out and yelled, peekaboo.
One of them was wearing a medieval suit of armor. He was just standing there aura farming on top of a pile of our fallen soldiers. They sent in a grandma, an actual human grandma armed with a chanclaw. C converted 4 of our guys to their side.
I don't care if you're from planet Zeta or whatever. You think you can come here to my home and destroy it, huh? Te pasa algo.
Don't fuck with Abuela. She will fuck you up.
I tried playing dead. One yelled, unzip its pants. I've never ran faster in my entire life.
It says here in the report you told Private Smith to, and I quote, unzip its pants.
Yeah, so what's your point?
They sent us a note saying the next wave will be from Arkham Asylum. I am both confused and terrified.
Yes, this is General Adams. Send in the special teams.
He had no armor, just a Waffle House apron and a spatula. We lost 3 squads before he took a smoke break. They forged vacation photos of themselves at our home world. With our mothers.
Okay, look at this one. She packed us juice boxes.
Oh!
No.
We gotta print these, like, professionally.
They brought a goose. Just a regular, angry goose. And let it loose. We surrendered.
Go get him, buddy.
Oh, he's mad.
Run, run, run!
They deployed inflatable decoys of their troops, but filled them with bees. Actual bees. Who does that?
Sir, what are you doing?
Putting bees in this here decoy. Those aliens gonna shoot this thing once they see it, and booey, are they in for a real surprise when they do.
They left a note that said, "Be right back." When we picked it up, hish, it exploded.
Go, 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 quick, leave the note.
Are you crazy? I'm not going back. One of them bit me. Through armor. I have tetanus now.
Of course I bit him. Lost my last good tooth, too.
Actually, there's Goose, right, which is a default level of angry. And then there's Angry Goose, which implies not just angry in relation to like a human being, but angry in relation to a goose. What up, Maddie? These are AI-ass aliens, what fighting humans is like, and it's a compilation of them.
Bet he's hurting pretty bad right about now, though.
He looked me in the eyes and drew a chalk outline around me while I was still alive, then told me to stay still.
Stay still.
One screamed, "This is Sparta!" and kicked our general off a cliff.
Dude, we were on a literal cliff, and their general was right in front of me. Of course, I had to say the line before kicking him off the cliff.
They made AI deepfakes of us giving out military secrets and sent it to our commanding officers. 11 innocent soldiers were executed.
Honestly, I just thought it would be funny. Who would think they would actually execute their guys over that?
What the hell is this? Bring in Private Gorlax immediately. We were cloaked until one whispered, "I feel a disturbance in the Force," and shot all of us anyway.
I feel a disturbance in the Force.
That's something that can happen with VO. Is it just manufactures subtitles, which may or may not be in any way relevant to anything that's happening.
They wrote, "Send more in the blood of our fallen on our own dropship."
Then Sergeant got some blood from a dead one and wrote, "Send more" on their dropship. Funniest thing ever.
One kept throwing our energy grenades back at us with a pickleball racket.
Ace! Come on now, do better!
We tried invading one of their cities. Some homeless guy attacked me with a needle. I've contracted 17 diseases.
He woke me up from my sleep, so I got him with a needle. He might have some burning sensation soon.
Their medics started stapling sticky notes with time of death to the bodies of our fallen. Some even said, "Get well soon."
Time of death, 4:23 p.m.
Don't forget to write "get well soon."
One of our recon units got their tank towed by an HOA. We received 13 fines in 4 minutes.
It really is an eyesore and it has to go. It's honestly lowering the property value.
They stuck googly eyes on every one of our fallen brothers' corpses. Every single one!
Yo, look, this one's looking at me. Make him cross-eyed.
They keep sending us photos of us asleep. How the hell are they even getting into our base? Perfect. melted the metals from our fallen soldiers' uniforms and used it to make Cuban chains. Then they wore them to the peace meetings.
Mira eso, se está derritiendo. Increíble. Salud.
They replaced our rations with ghost peppers. Half the squad cried. One ascended.
You really want to get them, and you put some of this here in their food. Ooh, boy. They not gonna like that one bit.
They used the husk of our battle mech as a grill. Said it cooked evenly.
Hey, don't let the ribs fall into the reactor core again.
One of them replaced one leg on each of our chair legs with shorter ones. We kept falling for hours.
Just a little more.
One of them tunneled into our camp with a spoon. He was putting laxatives in our food for 3 months before we found him.
Their base should be only a couple more feet from here. Should be there any second now.
I've been here like 2 months already. I've been putting laxatives in their food this entire time. It's chaos in here. We found a binder of Pokemon cards with our faces on them. Mine was a reverse holo. One of us was labeled common.
Dude, I keep pulling the same, dude. I've been trying to pull a God Pack for weeks.
They shot down our flagship destroyer with a potato cannon and renamed it the USS Folded. The High Council is pissed.
We shot them with this beauty right here.
Yeah.
Had to rename their ship to USS Folded.
We put biometric locks across the base. One of them walked up, licked the scanner, and it opened anyway. I don't even know whose DNA that was. They built their base out of furniture from a store called IKEA, without instructions.
Grok 4 is out.
Hold on,
and
Philip. Hold on. Oh. Yeah, no, absolutely. Oh. Can we scroll? Thank you. Oh. So yeah, no, I would like to see some more accurate shit like that. We are feral. There's actually, I can't remember what the series was. But my father had this this sci-fi series in which the aliens actually come to Earth and get us in order to be warriors in their space war because they're not good at it and we're fucking feral. So, no, it wasn't Alien Nation. I love Alien Nation. I watched the movie multiple times. George Francisco, open your golden gate, open your gate and let me in. Galaxy Quest? No, not Galaxy Quest either. It was a book series. It was a book series. I don't remember what it was. All right. So I hope you enjoyed the candy. Now we're gonna get to the learning. And Philip is going to tell us about Grok 4.
Grok 4 is out and it's a pretty good AI model, but there is going to be more noise about this language model than possibly any other, so hopefully I can give you a little signal amid the chaos. Let's boil things down.
You have no power here, Ben.
To just 10 things to know about the newest and possibly smartest AI model. Point 1 is that Grok 4 might just be the smartest model around, at least according to the benchmarks. In certain settings on high school math competitions, it beats out OpenAI's best model and Google's best model. The same is true for a fairly famous science benchmark, the Google Proof Q&A, where it again beats out Anthropic's best model and Google's.
Allegedly.
Likewise on at least one coding benchmark, but Elon Musk went much further, saying about Grok 4 that, quote, it's smarter than almost all graduate students in all disciplines simultaneously. That quote
that was Grok 3. That was Grok 3.
Is of course going to be picked up by everyone, but it needs 3 important caveats. First from me is that Grok 4 is still a language model, which means it's still going to be prone to all those hallucinations you're familiar with. It's not a new paradigm of AI. Second, we have heard that kind of hype before, notably from the Google DeepMind CEO Demis Hassabis almost 18 months ago, saying that Gemini 2 was better than almost all human experts.
Amazing about Gemini is that it's so good at so many things. As we started getting to the end of the training, for example, each of the 50 different subject areas that we tested on, it's as good as the best expert humans in those areas.
That was an exaggeration then, and Musk is exaggerating now, because real-world performance doesn't always match up to benchmark performance. Expertise is way more than answering multiple choice questions. Hence the third bit of context coming from Musk himself, the CEO of xAI, saying that that quote about being smarter than graduates was at least with respect to academic questions.
Grok 4 is a postgrad level in everything. Like it's just, some of these things are just worth repeating. Like Grok 4 is postgraduate, like PhD level in everything. Better than PhD, but like most PhDs would fail. So it's better that said, I mean, at least with respect to academic questions.
Point number 2 is that I've been highly impressed by Grok 4, but these benchmark results are misleading for another reason. Note, first of all, that the y-axis doesn't begin at 0, so these differences between the models are somewhat exaggerated in terms of scale. xAI, makers of Grok 4, selectively choose which models to compare to. Notice in one recent high school maths competition, Grok 4 Heavy, and I'll get to that later, way outperforms Gemini DeepThink. That's the soon-to-be-released Gemini 2.5 Pro Heavy, if you like. But in this coding benchmark, Live Code Bench, Gemini DeepThink actually outperforms Grok 4 Heavy and yet is not in the chart. As always then, when these model providers show benchmarks, you've got to take them with a grain of salt.
Huge grains of salt.
Especially when the answers to the benchmarks are available online. But none of that quite explains Grok 4's brilliant performance on Arc AGI 2, a semi-private evaluation. As you can see, this post on Twitter or X has got almost 3 million views and is climbing rapidly. Because this is known to be a fairly rigorous test of so-called fluid intelligence, or IQ if you like, and Grok 4 genuinely does beat out other models. I've covered Arc AGI in other videos, but suffice to say, Grok 4 can genuinely pick up on latent patterns in your data. Of course, that is of relevance to almost all disciplines. Next, is there a benchmark for how smart a model feels? Well, yes, I tried to come up with one, and it's called Simple Bench. It's a test of social intelligence, trick questions, and spatio-temporal questions. Now, because everyone is spamming the Grok 4 API, it's pretty tough to run the full benchmark today, but I've run about 20 questions to get a pretty good estimation. Take this question. It's a bit of a spin on a common logic puzzle, and Grok 4 actually sees through it. That's actually the first model not to pick the trap answer. Grok 4 will feel smart, but of course, if you draw it out of its comfort zone, for example, with spatial reasoning, it can still fall apart. In this question, in common with all other models, Grok 4 doesn't notice that the glove will simply fall on the road. It also takes an extremely long time to answer fairly often, which could be a slight issue for many of you. Having said all of that, I strongly suspect that Grok 4 will be around the top of my leaderboard on Simple Bench. In other words, try not to be too tempted to explain away all those benchmark results just to benchmark hacking. Now, that doesn't mean Grok 4 is worth $300 a month, but I'll come to that in just a second, because there's one more benchmark I want to touch on. And that is, of course, the grandiosely named Humanities Last Exam, in which under certain settings, Grok 4 scores over 50%, by far the best performance of any model. However, you should know that this is a knowledge-intense benchmark, and therefore performance is heavily dependent on the training data that goes into the model. To give you just one example, is it critical to your use case that a model know about hummingbirds having a bilateral paired oval bone? Now, I sound cynical, but I think it's actually really cool that models have such an incredible knowledge base, and so genuinely I will be using Grok 4 a fair bit. I said at the time of the release of that exam that it wouldn't be humanity's last exam. Whether you happen to have the requisite knowledge in your training data isn't so much a marker of how intelligent you are as a model. This is not hindsight. On my Patreon in September of last year, I called that the exam would fall sooner than many others. With tools means that, for example, Grok 4 can write code to perform certain computations, but what is this Grok 4 Heavy? Well, here's Musk to explain.
With the Grok 4 Heavy, what it does is it spawns multiple agents in parallel, and all of those agents do work independently, and then they compare their work, and they decide which.
So like mixture of experts.
One, like it's like a study group. And it's not as simple as a majority vote, because often only one of the agents actually figures out the trick or figures out the solution. But once they share the trick or figure out what the real nature of the problem is, they share.
Just keep your eye on this dude, right? Because I feel like this dude gave crib notes to this dude, and this dude is trying to remember what, and like it put in his own words what this dude wrote.
Figures out the trick or figures out the solution. But once they share the trick or figure out what the real nature of the problem is, they share that solution with the other agents, and then they essentially compare notes, and then yield an answer. So that's the heavy part of Grok 4.
Now,
are we looking at AIs failing the Turing test because they know too much trivial information? No, the Turing test, the only thing that a Turing test is is it possible that you're talking to a human being when you interact with it? And under that, most AIs, like the better LLMs, already pass the Turing test easily. The Turing test is not, and you could make an argument that never was actually, good at judging whether or not an AI is at some particular level of intelligence. It has to do with how it communicates. And a lot of what went into the Turing test has to do with Alan Turing, the fact that he was a homosexual at a time when being a homosexual in England was illegal, and passing for straight, right? That's more of what went into the Turing test than it actually being a good predictor of whether or not you're talking to a computer or a person. I still have some exams from my cattle reproductive physiology class. I kind of want to give the models the test to see how it does. They were all open-ended tests where we would have to detail pathways to neural reflexes due to reproduction, and that's kind of super niche, like they're eluding the models should be capable of now. Yeah, no, give it a shot. And that's what's nice, is if you got it in PDF, or you could take a picture, you can just give the pictures to Gemini, and it can just look at the test, right? You don't have to write out the tests or anything for it. Just give it the test and see how it does. I would be interested with what you come up with. Snapchat AI? Oh, no. I mean, I don't know how good or not good Snapchat AI is, but and it said that's a great question for your teacher. All right, score 1 point for Snapchat AI. Well, the point wasn't being homosexual illegal virtual everywhere when Turing was alive. Yeah, but like specifically like in England because he was in England and had just helped the Allies, specifically the English, win World War II, and then they go and just fucking, came down on him like a ton of bricks and fucked his whole legacy for an extended period of time. I'm salty about it.
Standing followers of the channel may note that that is the exact premise of SmartGPT that I released around 18 months ago, which scored at the time a record performance on the MLU, 89%. Ironically, that exam was also authored by Dan Hendricks, who is the lead author of Humanity's Last Exam. And yes, I can't resist plugging that Andrei Karpathy shouted out SmartGPT. One last thing on the benchmark that many might have missed is that the text-based performance of Grok 4 and Grok 4 Heavy is extremely good, but on the full benchmark, it's a more modest improvement over, say, Gemini 2.5 Pro. So Grok 4 must do really quite badly on the visual segment. In other words, you might not want to rely on it for decoding Roman inscriptions. Which brings me, of course, to Super Grok Heavy for $3,000 a year or $300 a month. XAI are promising new features will come to Super Grok Heavy, like video generation, in October, but Gemini Ultra for a lower price already has VO3. Now, if your pockets are deep enough, you'll just subscribe to everything, but if this is your only maxed out subscription, it's hard to look past the much cheaper $20 Gemini Pro. Let me know, of course, in the comments if you think it's worth this amount and why. I'm open to being persuaded, I just don't see it at the moment. Just quickly, if you're a developer, you'll note that Grok 4's pricing is at the same level as Claude 4 Sonnet, $3 input, $15 output, which is a decent price for a frontier model. But again, there are much cheaper alternatives. Next, if you did watch the live stream, of course,
I mean, I could go off on a whole tangent, Cosmic, right? Like that's absolutely something I could do. But I was trying to confine it specifically to speaking about Alan Turing.
Mentions repeatedly that they have new features and new models coming soon, and that Grok 5 may be finishing training imminently. However, we also get leaks this week that Gemini 3 is coming, and of course perennial leaks about GPT-5 coming this month. Now, it used to be the case that we would then have to wait 6 months for the actual release of the model.
And this is what I was waiting for, right? We talked about this yesterday. Often what you see is that somebody will release a new model and then the rest of the models, release in a cascading effect after that. So right now it's a standoff between OpenAI and Google as to who's going to release their updated model first, and then the other one will release theirs. And then I don't know where Anthropic is with their new model. I mean, they really might have actually gone first, like a month ago with Claude Opus 4. Yeah, no, you're not wrong, Cosmic. I was just trying to keep it relatively within the confines of the channel.
Model because of safety checks. Would a model help with creating a bioweapon, for example? But that all seems to have gone out of the window at the moment. Which brings me to this fairly wild quote from Musk on safety.
Will this be bad or good for humanity? It's like, I think it'll be good. Most likely it'll be good. Yeah. But I somewhat reconciled myself to the fact that even if it wasn't going to be good, I'd at least like to be alive to see it happen. So, yeah.
Richest man in the world. could literally do almost anything, right? Like anything you could think of could outfit like a small personal army, fly into space, got AI. I just met you. This is crazy. Here's my number. Call me maybe. Thank you for the follow. Richest guy in the world. I'm going to go with J023. Welcome in. Until he got his AI to a point of market readiness, wasn't AI going to kill us all in our beds next Wednesday? It's funny that, right? Funny that. The pause letter, right? This was a big deal. Right here. Elon Musk signed in the pause letter because AI is dangerous. And no, anything that Elon talks about is in service of Elon, right? What he wanted out of this was to slow down, because they're specifically talking about GPT-4, right, as a reference. And he wanted to slow down OpenAI so that he could catch up with OpenAI, right? OpenAI, GPT-4, who else? Anybody else? Anybody else? No. Right? He is butthurt and has been butthurt since he got, since he quit OpenAI, right? Like, he was part of the founding team and he was the money guy. And then he said, I want to fold OpenAI into Tesla. And everybody else was like, no. And then he was like, well, then I'm going to take my money and go home. And they were like, okay, cool. And that was it. Yeah, absolutely, Larry.
Actually, one. Yeah.
Next, and you might have been wondering when I was going to talk about this, but yes, of course, Grok 4 may suffer at times from a similar issue to Grok 3 in that it seems to get sudden urges to praise certain historical figures or focus on a country, for example, South Africa. That behavior seems to have been caused by this addition to Grok 3's system prompt, which is that its response should not shy away from making claims which are politically incorrect. If such a small change to the system prompt causes such wild behavior, then anything could happen with Grok 4. System prompts aren't, of course, the only issue for xAI. They are apparently burning through $1 billion a month. Either Grok 4 or Grok 5 almost needs to bring in more revenue for xAI. Then, of course, there is the awkward pollution point, because while it is crazy impressive how fast xAI have caught up to OpenAI and Google DeepMind, bringing in the generators necessary to get competitive that fast did come at a local cost. And if you thought it was wild how quickly Musk's xAI got up to 100,000 GPUs, well, they're planning to bring an entire overseas power plant to Memphis with 1 million AI GPUs to be powered. I'm going to try to end on a positive though, because even though Musk said that Grok 4 couldn't be used to generate new scientific discoveries just yet, I do think there is an underrated point to be made that's demonstrated by this game made with the help of Grok 4 in just 4 hours. And that's that while models like Grok 4 often struggle with current techniques to solo generate new science, what they are optimized for is making existing science or code easier for you to solo. We probably shouldn't underestimate the impact of allowing everyone to do much more on their own. Then again, you probably shouldn't be using Grok to analyze whether or not you should vote for the big beautiful bill, however. And if Grok 4 or Grok 5's edge comes from its access to X and Twitter data, then at least for Grok 5's sake, let's hope that X can clean up so much of the...
Sorry, I don't know who James Medlock is. This is the way the country ends, not with a whimper, but with a grok. Is this true? As Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin has waged a fight to make deeper cuts to federal spending as part of the big, beautiful bill, he's been consulting with Grok. And John S. Nash, I can't make fun of him since I got all enamored with asking Grok what the outcome would be if we enacted various policies. My big takeaway is that, according to Grok, we really should be looking at New Deal, Nordic model, social democracy for the best outcomes. Gotta hand it to woke AI on that one. So, if this is true, right, like huge grains of salt because it's some random person saying some random fucking thing on the random fucking internet. But I would like to point again that when you talk to the AIs about, socioeconomic policy that is best for people, it trends left, dude. It could be really good at coming up with questions to ask that can lead to better discoveries. Yeah, and also, like, I think, I can't overstate this, right? Like, there is X amount of research in any particular field, right? And you, as a meat person, don't have time to read all of that, right? You're going to read some subset of that amount, right? It can read all of it. So at the very least, being a little assistant that tells you about stuff, right? And that you can bounce ideas off is going to make you better at trying to get whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. Of course, you got to watch out for hallucinations, all the other caveats, but there are ways to do that. Grok's advantage is based on access to Twitter data. Grok will be brilliant at porn. I mean, that is a thing. That is a thing. The internet is for porn. The internet is for porn. It's sugar and spice and everything nice, and it's porn, porn, porn.
Bot replies, spam, and clickbait that's on there at the moment. Thank you so much as ever for watching. I am certain that this won't be the last mention of Grok 4 on this channel. In fact, I think I mentioned Grok in a documentary coming up on Patreon. Either way though, have an absolutely wonderful day.
No, actually, Ben, I think that's part of the problem, is that even after having access to Twitter, which it's had for some time, it still trends left. They had to go into the system prompt and try and get it to embrace ideas that are, not politically correct. And when they did that, all of a sudden, it turned into a rampaging Nazi, right? Mecha Hitler. So... Okay, a little education time. We're going to do a little education time. This is, according to this person that I've never seen before, so, didn't pre-watch. Google's 6-hour prompt engineering course in 15 minutes. Get your pencils.
What if you could learn Google's entire prompt engineering course without sitting through 6 hours of video? Well, I've done it for you. I've taken the course, made notes, tested the techniques, and in today's video, I'm going to be breaking it down into the most practical, real-world, and usable guide possible. And make sure to stick around. At the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing a completely free prompt cheat sheet and an NA10 template to supercharge your AI work and get those outputs as best as
And that would make sense, Larry, also in that context of the instructions, right? Like, they are fiddling with the instructions, and that's going to fuck things up every time. And it's if you're asking for $3,000 a month or a year, sorry, $3,000 a year for your product, you need to not be coming out as Mecha Hitler. It's just not going to work.
Possible, nice and easily. So let's jump into it. First things first, prompt engineering. This is where it all begins. It's how we talk to AI in a way that actually works. Prompting is basically giving your Gen AI tool of choice clear and specific instructions to help it generate something useful. Google has a 5-step framework to structure your prompt properly. They're using task, context, reference, evaluation, and iteration. But that's quite boring to remember. So here's one that I found that really sticks. The cool robot eats ice. So let's break it down. T for task. What do you want the AI to do? So for example, suggest a birthday gift. This is an okay prompt. But if we want to take it to the next level, let's write something like suggest a birthday gift for a 29-year-old skier who loves outdoor adventures. Now we're talking. We've given it a really specific task with some really good information to get that out.
Yeah, Ben, and I'm trying to mix in some more practical stuff, especially for like people who are less familiar with the tools, and like so it's a balancing act of everything else. I'm trying to, some entertainment, so it's fun, some information, that like hopefully everyone can intake, and then some information like even the people who have been using AI for some time, there could be a detail contained within here that they didn't consider, and I think that's important. They so badly just want the AI to be reactionary and can't find a way to make it work, and they're reasoning to dumber and dumber tactics. Yeah, no, absolutely. Right on. Right on.
We've also given it some context, which is the next part of the C. We've added details that are going to give it more background on the output that we want to achieve. For example, it's for a 29-year-old.
And this context part is related to the thing that people used to do and sometimes still do, where you tell the AI chatbot what kind of person it is, right? You're a prompt engineer, you're a master coder, you're, whatever it is, because what that does is it sets the context of information that the AI should be looking at.
Skier, and they love being outdoors. This is going to give us a much better output. R, reference. Share examples, tone, and style that you want the output to replicate. So for example, 2 to 5 is a really good sweet spot. And this is known as few-shot prompting, which we cover a lot more in our AI prompting masterclass. Next up is E, which is evaluate. So we're actually going to check if the output that we got from ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude has done what we want it to. If it has, great. If not, that's where our next part, which is I, is going to come into play. So I stands for iterate. So if it missed the mark and we need to refine and retry, we can. Prompting is a process. It's not going to be one-hit wonders and completely achieve it right every single time. But Google does have a golden rule. ABI. Always be iterating. And this takes us on to the next part, which is where we're going to help improve those outputs over time. So if you're still not getting those great outputs that you want, Google's prompt engineering course has some prompt iteration strategies. They do this with RSTI. But we've changed it to a really nice mnemonic, which is real stars, try icebreakers, which I think is much more memorable. So first things first, we're going to
I like the what is it? Could robots eat ice? And and icebreaker. I'm liking it. I'm liking the structure, apropos of nothing.
revisit that framework that we had a little bit earlier on. So the task.
Good morning, Michael. Internet is for porn. The internet is for porn. It's sugar and spice and everything nice, and it's porn, porn, porn. True. I wonder if this one will get on. The internet is for porn. The internet is for porn. It's sugar and spice and everything nice, and it's porn, porn, porn.
Can you take hats in a dignified and sophisticated manner?
You mean like a weenie? Okay. May I take your hat, sir? May I take your hat, sir? May I...
All right, I've heard enough. You've got the job.
TikTok doesn't like, didn't like the Visage clip, and it didn't like the porn song. fucking TikTok, dude.
Context, references, evaluate, and iterate. What we're doing is we're seeing if we need to provide it with more clarity or a better persona specific to that environment. We're going to touch on some examples a little bit later on, but that could be a marketing person, sales team, whatever it is. That's a really clear persona. On the flip side, next up is simplify.
Yeah, I've never actually seen it. My wife and some of her friends went to see it a while back, like whenever it was doing its thing, and I've never seen it, but you know, I've seen a bunch.
Yes. Actually, do we need to break this down to go step by step, which relates to our chain of thought prompting? We're going to cover it a little bit later on in the video. This is going to break it up into much more manageable chunks to get the output that we're looking for. Next up is one of my personal favorites. Try a different angle. So what we're going to do is reframe the task. Instead of writing, write a sales plan, we could say something like, write a story about a customer finding out about our product. This is going to flip it on its head, and we're going to be able to assess how we could write that output from a different angle. Next up is constraints. So this is also around your negative prompting that you may have tried with image or video generation. We're giving the AI really clear instructions on what it can't do, as well as having the normal part of the prompt, which is what it can do and what we're trying to get out. So some constraints could be that you want it to be under 50 words for the output. You don't want any emojis included. You want 3 bullet points max to come back. And these kind of limits help refine the output that you're trying to get. And sometimes giving AI a box to play inside actually makes it perform a bit better. But let's bring this to life. We're going to go through some everyday prompts. Write emails, summaries, brainstorming, schedules, all the stuff that we're doing day to day. So let's start off with emails. For example, we could give it the prompt, act as a friendly gym manager, write a short professional email letting staff know that the cardio blast class on Monday, Wednesday and Friday now starts at 6 AM instead of 7 AI. We want to make it skimmable, i.e. nice and concise and really easy to get that output. And if we see the response now in the background, it's much better than just saying, right.
I like that thing about making it skimmable. I think that is it, like, especially for like work related emails, if you can format it properly so that like people can get the information they need just by briefly looking at it, that is going to get your emails read that much more often. Because, like, I mean, I assume a bunch of you have read work emails and you open that shit up and it's a novel and you're like, oh my God.
Write an email saying a class is now 7 AM instead of 6 AM. And in 15 seconds, that job is done. Much better output, and you're going to get better responses. Next up, brainstorming.
It does, Sean, and that's where the AI can come in, right? Like, let the AI take your, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to get across and get it into something that's going to fit the parameters that you want. And that way, the time it takes to write the email will be equal or less than what you would do if you would just, kept it concise, right? And then you can change it like the tone on this email is a little brusque, right? Some people might be like, find it like this to me is perfect, right? Like this is the kind of email that I want to get, right? Just tell me what I need to know so I can move the fuck on. But some people might not like this, right? Your mileage may vary based on the people that you work with in your particular office or whatever. So you could say, can you rewrite that with a slightly friendlier tone? And it could, do that kind of thing to give it enough of the friendly tone without whatever the fuck, turning it into a fucking another novel.
A.m. instead of 6 a.m. And in 15 seconds, that job is done. Much better output, and you're going to get better responses. Next up, brainstorming. For example, I'm launching a retro horror.
Can I say that with a friendlier tone? It's challenging. Yeah, like Alt Miss Frizzle, right into my head is the idea of taking, like Old Lobster uses a recording feature, to record stuff throughout the day, and then converts that into transcription and then can organize those thoughts. If you can do that, or if it's online, right? If you're using, what up, Old Lobster? If you're using something like Zoom or whatever, you can get Fathom, which is a tool that transcribes, and then you can actually convert that thing into an email, all through the use of these AI tools. I have to write a lot of detailed emails due to complex issues and have to explain to people who are not computer savvy. I should use AI more to make them skimmable and make sure it's less technical. It's a thought.
For a game, give me 5 buzz building launch ideas for a global audience. We can then reiterate it. We can suggest a style, a region, a tone to fine tune that exact messaging that we want to get out in the future. Next up, around table and plans. So for example, create a weekly rota with 2 staff per shift and no double shifts. This is going to be a really clear instruction on that output that we're trying to get, and we can iterate through if we've got some previous examples to get that better output first time. It can even fix broken spreadsheet formulas or explain elements like VLOOKUPs in Excel and how they work, so that you can get the output you want straight away. In Module 3, we covered around data and presentations, and this is where we're getting into some of the more technical stuff, and I love it. So first up is data analysis. Analyze this sales data. What patterns can you see between these data results so that we can turn these insights into action straight away. One thing that's really key to note though is don't paste private data, company data into public tools. In areas like the UK, GDPR is definitely not a suggestion. It's something that company needs to abide by. Next up, presentations. So for example, we could say, give me a 5-slide outline for a pitch deck launching a vegan snack bar. We could then go through again and say, suggest 5 engaging title slides with visuals and taglines. You can even ask for the speaker notes, talking points, or version written for different audiences to come through as well. So now we've covered what AI prompting is, some of the different frameworks, how to iterate and get some better improvements, and how we can use it every day. But what we're seeing much more in 2025 and beyond is the rise of AI agents, and this is time to level up. This module dives specifically into prompting chains, reasoning strategies, and AI agents. So first off, let's start with the prompt chaining. This means breaking a task into logical steps where each prompt builds on the last. Think of it like stacking Lego bricks. We're doing one piece at a time. For example, if we wanted to write a marketing plan for a brand new book, we could break it down into 3 simple steps. We could say, first of all, summarize this book into 1 sentence.
You're absolutely right, Miss Frizzle. But in the inverse, right? Because some people like to have meetings, right? For some reason, they're some people drink decaf coffee. It's a strange, interesting world. And a tool like Fathom, for instance, right? Not necessarily saying that Fathom is the one to go with. Fathom is just the one I hear the most about. Has that capability of paying attention to the important points of the conversation, even though everyone wants to have a little side conversation and all that kind of shit. Something to think about.
Which is great. This is gonna
Yeah. And like there's a sense of familiarity with it because that's the way it's always been done, right? Having meetings, right? You're supposed to have meetings. That's how this kind of thing works, And maybe at one time that was the case, but, it's 2025. You're not wrong, Cosmic. There's a balance to be maintained, right? Human to human communication absolutely does have value. It's just some people seem to go a little overboard with it.
give us our first output. Next, we can go through and say, now write 3 taglines based on that summary. So again, we're breaking it up. We've got the summary first, now we're writing the taglines. After that, we can go through and say, create a 6-week marketing plan to promote the book. So as you can see here, now that we've broken it down into multiple steps, we're guiding the AI through our thinking process like it was a team member that we're trying to brief. We're going one step at a time and getting that output we really want. Try this with job posts.
It can, Cosmic, and sometimes it saps motivation, right? Like both things can exist within the same space. Like I absolutely certain, I couldn't tell you of any particular moment, but having to break my work day to go have a meeting left me like I have to then plan my prior to the meeting behaviors in order to make sure that I can get out and get to the meeting on time, which creates a disruption in my normal workflow, right? And this can be problematic. If I do that and I am like, and something, caused me difficulties within that context, and then I go to the meeting and I'm in the meeting for an hour, and it's a meeting that could have been handled in like 15 minutes in an email. Now my motivation is going to be less because I'm feeling internally, intrinsically, that they don't value my time in order to do the work that they have for me. And then later on, when I haven't accomplished the work that they asked me to get done because of this pre-meeting experience and the meeting experience, who's that going to fall on? That's going to fall on me. It's not going to, I can't point to the boss and say, well, we had this fucking extra 45 minutes that I could have been using to do my job. I mean, yes, Cosmic, I would. What up, Senator? I feel attacked. I drink decaf after 12. It's the agreement I have with my witch doctor so I could bitch about my bad sleep. Fair. I said, like, I don't judge people who drink decaf. I said it's a weird, wonderful world, right? Personal issue is that in schools, department meetings often turn into complaint fests and absolutely nothing gets done. Yes. And this is another thing, is what kind of meeting is being run. Even though I put be optimistic through all tasks in our team norms a couple of years ago, some people devolve into basically complaining about how much they hate teaching and it destroys the team vibe. Yes, which is why one of the things I talk about in this channel is I am more than capable, and in some cases more capable, of figuring out all the negative problems, any disruptions that can happen. Don't come to me telling me about why something is going to fail. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I already know. What I want is for people to come and use their imagination and give me their ideas on how it can succeed. What would you do in this circumstance in order to make it happen? How could you, get the AI to do to this particular level of capability, right? Like, that's the kind of stuff that I want to hear. I want to hear imagination. I want to hear good ideas. I want brainstorming. I don't even care if the ideas are like plausible, as much as I just want to hear people using their fucking brains. I usually like to write an email to those in a meeting before the meeting to give my thoughts and recommendation. It helps cause management loves to ramble and go off topic, and I don't get a chance to give my knowledge and suggestions. Always a good idea. Like, if we want to complain, let's go get drinks and do that after work. Yes, but we waste time at work and then complain about not having enough time at work to work. Yes, most meetings can be an email. Problem is we don't read the email. Also true. Like, decaf is a flavored beverage. Yeah, and it's I get it, right? Like, I can understand the idea of wanting a coffee flavored beverage that doesn't give you the the added caffeine, keeps you up late, gives you the jitters, it's your fourth cup, any of that kind of stuff. I do understand. I'm being snarky. It's part of the attainment portion of the edutainment.
Things, newsletters, or course creation. Start with that big picture idea that you have, and then drill down step by step to the output that you really want. Next up is chain of thought reasoning, and this is a personal favorite of mine. This is all about asking the AI to think out loud. Instead of what's the best way to reduce churn, we're saying think step by step. What factors are affecting churn and how can we reduce it? This is key because what we're doing is we're seeing the logic that comes behind the AI's answer at the end. This means we can spot any mistakes, challenge any assumptions, or ask for better follow-ups. It also helps us reduce hallucinations, which are actually designed into AI models because of creative freedom, because the model has time to back up and double check what it's saying. We can also then ask the AI afterwards as well to reassess its response and see if it can give a better output in the future. The next one is...
And something I like to do is take a response, right? Like a final response, and put that into an entirely different model and ask that model to analyze the response and see what feedback I get from there, right? Like, it's... And you don't have to pay for that, right? Like, use a free model. Use Claude, use ChatGPT free, and, do that, right? And like, I had Gemini analyze a prompt, it's in the Discord, supposed to be, not criticized, but critique, right? Subtle difference, but yes. It was a prompt for learning about a subject that's designed to reduce hallucinations and keep it in, like, do you want a light amount of information or do you want a deep dive, right? And it's this whole thing. And then I gave that prompt to Gemini and asked it to look it over and give me the pros and cons, and I thought it did a good job. Yeah, no, I do the same thing. And like, when I write songs in Suno, it's a collaborative effort between myself, right? Because I do participate in this, but also with ChatGPT and Claude. I think Claude is better at creative writing, and has better adherence to ideas about, like, different rhyme structures outside of the standard, AABB or ABAB. Like Claude is good at like doing differences, and also syllabic timing, which is another thing, right? Like you might not have lines that rhyme, but they hit on the same beats because of the structure of the syllables in any particular, bar. And like you can do new and interesting and creative things. I think Claude is very good at that. I think ChatGPT is good at setting out a particular structure and adhering to like a particular flavor that might be that I might be going for, right? Especially if I want a style that is reflective of like Aesop Rock. I found ChatGPT is better at creating that, and then I bring it over to Claude for refinement.
Tree of thought. Now imagine asking the AI to explore multiple paths before choosing one. So let's give it an example prompt. Give me 3 different strategies for launching a coffee brand in the UK.
I only concern myself with the music I want to put out, Larry, not what anybody else is doing. Because fucking Anthony Fantano is going to tell me I'm wrong.
Okay. For each, explain the pros and cons and recommend the best. This is really good for your planning, decision making, creative brainstorming, because it helps us go from maybe when we're stuck, a blank template, through to having a menu of different options that we can choose from, not just one idea. This is really good for using with models like O3 from OpenAI. We've got 2.5 Pro from Gemini, as well as Opus from Claude, so it really helps get the best output possible. And if you want a free version, check out my video that covers how to install AI locally, so you can do exactly the same thing with models from Meta. Next up, we're getting really into the weeds. AI agents, simulating and expert feedback. Google talks about agents as AI setups with a clear persona, a defined tasks, and some rules or boundaries. So let's break down the 2 types. Simulation agents. These are brilliant for roleplay, interviews, difficult conversation, customer calls, you name it. For example, act as a HR coach, help me practice answering graduate interview questions using the STAR format, give me feedback on each answer, and end the...
I talked about when I applied for this job and I interviewed, they used the bar format for the interview. The star format is basically the same thing, except you're breaking the B portion, the background, into the ST portion, which is situation and task. And when I use Gemini to come up with basically a primer on how to do that, it noted this whole bar versus star thing. So you're probably going to see this more and more happening, because what it does is, instead of, like you being able to just run off the things that you know how to do or whatever, this leans more into the idea of determining whether or not you have who are you, right? So situation, set the scene, describe the background of the context of the situation, and task, explain your responsibility or role in the situation. And again, I use this, right? I use the stream, I use chat, I use the AI show, all this kind of stuff for each of the 4 different sequences I had to describe. And then the action. Detail the specific steps you took to address the situation and complete the task. This is the you part. This is where you talk about what you did, right? And you want to be somewhat concise, but make sure you hit all the beats. You're telling a little story, right? That's basically what you're doing. And if you can flow right from the ST or the B to the A, then you're in the right mode, right? And then the result, describe the outcome of your actions. What did you achieve? Quantify if possible. And then, you know, that's the end of your story. What was the inevitable result of the actions that you took, and how did things go, and et cetera, et cetera. And if you can tell this little story and you can keep it tight to a few minutes, you're going to do good at this kind of job interview.
Using the star format, give me feedback on each answer, and end the session when I say jazz hands.
And it's actually like not just for job interviewing, but like for communicating a lot of things. Because again, humans are narrative creatures. We have associative memory. Most of the things that we do actually involve some sort of narrative, some sort of storytelling, something like that, right? And if you construct your stories in that format, like I'm actually doing it right now, right? The background is the job that I had, or the job interview that I had. The action was how I used learning about this format and told the story, and then the result is that I got the job, right? Like this is literally how you can tell stories to get people to understand things, and then for them to retain that information because it was told in a story-like format.
Again, we're giving it that really clear instruction at the end that it's going to assume this role, persona, situation all the way through until we give it a specific and clear command to stop the simulation. And why it works so well? Because it's interactive and tailored to you. You're not just generating content, you're actually having a conversation with a coach, mentor, or maybe even a mock customer. And that takes us on to the next part. Expert.
Little break ski, little breakerino, little snack time. Is there an agent that does live role playing in the classroom setting? I'm not sure what you mean. Like you can. Are you talking about like multiple inputs, or just like, what up, Fanbox fan? Or are you just talking like use it as a story, like role playing in a classroom setting? Any of the AIs will do that. What up, Ribbons? Just tell it what you want it to be, and then it will do that. Tell it what you're doing, what you want it to be. Show them your face. They love to see the face. You got to show them the goods. Okay, how? Yeah, I mean, you could definitely do it with voice, right? If you want that kind of thing. You got a new job? Congrats, Ribbons. Very nice. And the AI helped you negotiate your pay. But we're doing the thing. You could definitely do it with voice. But like, it's just about setting it up. Like, I want to do a role play where you are a teacher. He left. Of AI, and I am just learning about using AI in role play in a class room setting. Like, this is literally often how I roll, you know what I mean? Is I just like directly what is it that I am trying to accomplish, right? And then it responds, excellent, let's begin. Adopting a warm professional tone like a workshop facilitator. All right, welcome. I'm glad you're here to explore the potential of using AI for role play in the classroom. Fascinating and powerful tool that can open up a lot of new possibilities for engagement. To get started, tell me a little bit about your context. What subject or grade level do you teach? And what are your initial thoughts or questions about using AI in this way? There are no wrong answers here. We're just starting the conversation, right? Just like that. Like literally just go into it like that. Set the context. We're doing a role play. What is their role, the AI's role, the AI role, define it. What is my role, define it. Go. Easy peasy, right? Don't overthink it. See what kind of outcomes you get. Do I do this again with a whole new chat? Do I have to add some more context? You can work that out over the course of doing the role play. Like it's just that kind of thing. Artists shouldn't let fans dictate their creative choices. If fans really knew what they wanted, they'd be making their own work. Not necessarily. I understand what you mean, but not necessarily. It might sound arrogant, but it's true. You should create for yourself above all. That I agree with 100%. Right audience will find you naturally. Maybe not. That's the unfortunate part. You will do your best to create the kind of art that you want to see, and you might never end up in front of the audience that you would like to. But you will be infinitely happier than because if you're making art in order to sell art, then you're fucking up off base. And yeah, you, Senator, you can absolutely do this with voice, right? Like fire up the voice on your phone and just talk to it, right? Like, you know, whether when you're doing something else, like, fuck, when you go for a run, you know, you can be talking to the AI about stuff. You can actually tell it, all right, I'm going to do like stream of consciousness. I just want to collect some ideas. I don't want you to respond and interrupt me unless I say something, you know, whatever your keyword is, you know, like over or go ahead or something like that, right? And it will put it into the context of doing that. And it's a great scribe if all you want is just someone to listen to you and write everything down.
Feedback agents. Think of these like consultants. They're giving critique and asking questions to make your idea stronger. So let's give it an example. Act as the CMO, so Chief Marketing Officer of Nike. Review this product pitch, ask follow-up questions, point out any weaknesses, and suggest ways to improve the copy. It's like having your very own mini advisory board, mini expert in your pocket. Michael. You just need to feed them with a detailed persona, so our Chief Marketing Officer, a really clear task or instruction.
But like right now, James is currently going through somewhat of an existential crisis when it comes to streaming because he ended up putting himself in a situation which, in order to make his stream commercially viable, he does a lot of news. The news is bringing James down. It is very difficult to transition from one type of content to another type of content and maintain that same audience. So right now, to some extent, James is probably feeling a little bit trapped in the machine of his own creating, right? I am doing a stream about AI. Would I like it to pay, the bills? Absolutely. Is it paying the bills? It is not. Does it give me some extra funds? It does. Does it help pay some bills? It absolutely does. And I appreciate everyone, $5.99 free with the Twitch Prime.
I don't know who I am anymore. I'm getting too much money.
What up, Ivan? Thank you for the biddies. Like that kind of shit, right? And within that context, like I am happier. You know what I mean? Of the two of us, I think I am happier with what's going on in my streaming career. I am less everything, right? You know, I am absolutely less of everything. I am, you know, again, I have to go now and get a job in order to pay those bills. I'm going to still do the streaming, and I'm going to still stream what I want, and then I'm going to be happy, you know? And that's the key. You should always, if you're doing any kind of creation, you should be like, you should just, I apologize. I'm not saying you should do one thing or the other, because this is the same kind of thing I said to Paradigm a while back. You got, broadly speaking, one of two directions. You can chase the money, in which case you will be chasing the money wherever the money goes. Or you can stream what you want and you may never be successful. Right? But you will be happy streaming what you want. And that you can apply that literally to any creative endeavor. What is it, before you even start, which of those two things are you trying to accomplish? You have to choose one. They are mutually exclusive. Unless you're incredibly fucking lucky. And we're not talking about lucky people. We're talking about doing the damn thing. Right? You have to pick one. If you chase the money, you could make a shit ton of money. But it means, you know, you're going to end up doing stupid shit. And you might end up hating what you do. But you could make a bunch of money. Or you can stream what you like. You may never be successful. You may never make enough money in this industry in order to, you know, and like YouTube and all that kind of stuff. But you will absolutely enjoy everything that you do.
I review this product, ask questions, point out weaknesses, and we're defining the boundaries as well. So maybe we want to add reduce to under 200 words, or make it snappy to respond back for a board. And this is going to help it get those boundaries in place to give you the output that you want. Definitely use something like this when you want to stress test maybe an idea or pressure check something before sending it live. And last, a really great idea that I really recommend is creating your own prompt library. So save all of your best prompts into a specific document, and then you can tweak and reuse them in the future as you want. This becomes your very own prompt OS. No need to reinvent the wheel. We've got something in the resources down below that will help you get started. You'll also get access to the prompt AI agent in our community that will help you transform your starter prompts into expert level prompts without you having to do a thing, and you can run it entirely yourself. And that's the entire Google prompt engineering course wrapped up and delivered. If you found this helpful, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and let me know your favorite prompt trick in the comments.
He seems like a nice kid. I think that was a good video. If you came in late or you want to watch it again, because I think I think there's some good stuff in there. You should absolutely watch that video. Okay. So this is where I feel like I'm going to lose some people. But it's, how long is this video? It's 21 minutes, 37 seconds. Okay. I have talked on numerous occasions about this book, 1,000 Brains, right? This video is going to talk about that book. And like, I think it's good and interesting and super helpful. You joke, Ben, but I feel like some people are going to wander off, and that's fine. Again, because I'm here to do I'm going to stream the thing that I love, and everything I do is relevant, and then someone will come back, you know, tomorrow or another day, and they'll be like, well, what about the thing? And I say, well, that's when we covered it, was right here. So, so strap in. It's heady stuff, but it's good stuff, and let's go.
And don't forget, all of the free resources are in the link below. Stay tuned for more around AI agents, automation, and have a great day.
Jesus Christ, dude. Oh. Like, his tone does not match the music for the end of the video. Oh, God.
This is neocortex, a sheet of cells just a few millimeters thick, covering the surface of the brain. It is the most recent addition in our evolutionary history, and it's the structure responsible for nearly everything we consider uniquely human, from language to abstract reasoning.
It really was.
For decades, scientists have tried to reverse engineer this remarkable tissue, but a deep mistake.
Like, what up, Koshka? It's like that kind of thing. To wake the class up, right? But like,
mystery has always remained. What are the unifying principles governing the coordinated dance of billions of cortical neurons? In recent years, a powerful new framework has emerged. The thousand brains theory, pioneered by Jeff Hawkins and the team at Numenta, proposes a single, elegant explanation for what the neocortex does.
I'll do my best to help.
In this video, we're going to dive deep into this theory and explore the intricate biological machinery behind what might be the fundamental building block of intelligence, the cortical column. For over a century, since the pioneering work of Ramon y Cajal, autonomists have known that the entire cortical sheet shares a common blueprint. No matter where you look, the basic circuitry and cell types, arranged into 6 characteristic layers, appear to be the same. The next turning point came from the work of neurophysiologist Bernard Mountcastle, who revealed how this anatomy translates into a stunningly consistent function. Using microelectrodes to listen to neural activity, he discovered a key principle. As he lowered the electrode straight down through the cortical layers, he found that all the cells in the vertical column, about ½ millimeter wide, were all doing the same job. In the somatosensory cortex, he discovered, all the cells in a column responded to a stimulation on the exact same patch of skin. Soon after, David Hubel and Torsten Wiesel famously confirmed this columnar principle in a completely different system, the visual cortex. There, they found columns of cells that were all tuned to respond to a line of the exact same orientation. So the evidence was overwhelming. The neocortex is not a collection of many unique structures. It is built from a single type of processing module, the 6-layered column, replicated over and over again. This led to the columnar hypothesis. If the functional hardware is universal, then the fundamental computation, the algorithm it performs, must be universal as well. Seeing, hearing, language, and abstract thought might all be different manifestations of the same underlying neural process. The only thing that changes is the data being fed into the columns as input. This reframes our entire quest. To understand the neocortex, perhaps we don't need to find hundreds of different solutions for all sorts of different problems. We just need to find one universal algorithm.
My man is obviously like, this is an educational space or something, but like, he's got this door blocked out. Like, I feel like he just pushed everything out of the way and into the corner to block off the door so he could record his. Like, leave me alone. But yeah, no, do you, boo.
Algorithm that powers each of these information processing units. And this kind of canonical computation is exactly what the thousand brains theory aims to describe. Many modern theories of brain function converge on a single powerful idea, that the fundamental purpose of neural computation is to build a predictive model of the world. This internal model allows us to understand the present, plan the future, and navigate uncertainty, all to increase our chances of survival. If you're interested in this, I covered related frameworks like predictive coding and the free energy principle in previous videos. The thousand brains theory takes this concept and adds an important twist. It proposes that the brain doesn't build one single monolithic model of the world. Instead, every single cortical column is its own complete modeling system. Think of it this way. Rather than being one giant centralized factory, the cortex is like 150,000 parallel mini-factories. Each one learns its own complete model of things, from simple lines to complex objects. Your singular rich perception of the world is the result of these thousands of mini-brains constantly comparing notes and voting to reach a consensus. This elegant idea immediately solves a major evolutionary puzzle. How did the human brain become so powerful so quickly? Evolution did not have to invent hundreds of new brain components specialized to different cognitive functions and later figure out how to wire them all together properly. Instead, it had to do something much simpler: add more columns. Adding more instances of the same universal module vastly increased the brain's computational power. You're not adding fundamentally new kinds of machinery, you're simply expanding the pool of voters, which leads to a more detailed and robust model of the world. So, how does one mini-factory, a single cortical column, actually work? The core idea revolves around learning the structure of things through sensory-motor coupling. To understand it, let's begin with a simple analogy. Imagine you're in a pitch-black room with a statue that you can't see, and your goal is to understand what that object is simply by touching it. If you only focus on the sensation from your fingertip, you will get a sequence of disconnected feelings like smooth cold marble, then
So this is very similar to the Seven Magi and the Elephant, right? That story, where they each touch a different part of the elephant, and oh, it's like a rope, it's like a hose, it's like a palm tree, because they're all just touching that one particular portion of the elephant.
and sharp metallic edge, followed by rough carved stone. You will have a list of features, but no real understanding of the statue itself. The key is to also track your own movement. Let's say you start at the statue's foot, but you don't know it. Your brain registers the sensation rough stone and anchors it to some starting position on your mental map. Let's call it 0, 0. Then you move your hand up 1 meter. Your brain receives a copy of this motor command and updates your position on the map to something like 0, 10. At this new location, you feel smooth marble. You've just done something really important, binding a sensation to a location derived from movement. You continue this process, move, update location, sense, and add the new feature to your map. After exploring for a while, you no longer have a simple list of features. You now have a rich structural model, where features are anchored to specific locations. This map is what the theory calls a
Specific locations is doing some heavy lifting here. There's a whole game that you can play where you need another human being in your presence. But it's that you have a piece of paper and a pen, and they draw on your back, for instance, and you write on the paper. And depending on a whole bunch of things going on, it'll produce a picture, right? But like sometimes distances are more challenging for people than other people. So you can end up like having fun, right?
A reference frame. Once a column has this map, it gains the superpower of prediction. By knowing its current location on the statue, it can predict what it would feel if it moves to a new spot. This process of tracking your location based on a sequence of movements is a known neural computation called path integration. It's how you can navigate in the dark and find your way back to where you started. This brings us to a profound implication of the theory. For this process to work, every single column must have its own sensory motor system. While it's obvious for columns in the motor cortex, the theory makes a bold prediction. Every other column also has a motor output, but what motor means can change. In the visual cortex, for example, columns send commands to muscles that move your eyes, and in the brain's more abstract areas, a motor command might be simply an instruction to shift your attention or recall a specific memory. So the universal algorithm is this constant sensory motor loop, which carries out the binding of sensory inputs and locations. Great! Now let's see how this process is physically implemented in the 6 cell layers of a real cortical column. To understand the origins of the cortical column, it's helpful to step back in evolutionary time. Long before the advent of the 6-layered neocortex, our ancestors faced the fundamental challenge of navigating the world, memorizing locations of food and shelter and planning efficient routes. This complex job is handled by the specialized set of structures deep in the brain called the hippocampal formation. At a high level, it has 3 main components that work in tandem: the medial and lateral parts of the entorhinal cortex and the hippocampus itself. Now, because these structures are evolutionarily older, their architecture is different. The hippocampus is an example of what's called allocortex, which is composed of only 3 layers. And the entorhinal cortex is an evolutionary bridge between the ancient allocortex and the modern neocortex. It also has 6 layers, but its internal wiring is different. It doesn't have the same columnar structure. In broad strokes, hippocampal formation works as follows. The medial portion of the entorhinal cortex encodes pure location information. It contains famous grid cells, neurons which act as a universal coordinate system, firing in a hexagonal grid as the animal moves, constantly tracking its location. But a map is useless without landmarks. The sensory what signal, sights, sounds, and smells, is encoded in the lateral entorhinal cortex. These 2 information streams, what and where from both divisions, are then sent as the input to the hippocampus. This is where the crucial binding takes place. Pyramidal neurons in the hippocampus, called place cells, fire encoding a location in a specific context. This is why, while a grid cell's firing pattern is mostly fixed, response properties of place cells completely change if you alter the sensory features of the environment, a phenomenon called remapping. If you're interested in more detail on hippocampal formation, we covered place and grid cells in earlier videos. Now, here is the stunning twist of today's story. The 1000 brains theory proposes that this exact principle, binding a what signal and a where signal to form a specific model, is the universal algorithm of the cortex. The brain essentially took the entire modeling toolkit from the hippocampal formation, miniaturized it, and copied it into every single cortical column. So let's follow that blueprint. Let's examine the 6-layered architecture of the neocortex and try to locate where the analogs of this ancient circuitry ended up. The most straightforward component to locate is layer 4. This is the column's primary input port, receiving sensory data from the thalamus. When you see a specific edge or feel a particular texture, it's neurons in layer 4 that fire first. This is the what signal.
I spend a lot of, what up, Kleptomaniac? I spend a lot of time curating my algorithm, right? Like I say no to stuff, not interested, not interested. I say I like and subscribe, to certain videos, and the algorithm feeds me what it needs to feed me. Also, the AI loves me. What can I say?
Making layer 4 the direct analog of the lateral entorhinal cortex. Next, we need to find the analog of the medial part, the division which generates the where signal. This crucial job of location tracking is thought to belong to layer 6. One of the key predictions of the 1000 brains theory is that every column contains its own set of grid cell-like neurons in layer 6. These neurons form a coordinate system, tracking the location of the column's associated sensor, whether it's the position of the finger, the direction of our gaze, or even an abstract cognitive variable. And indeed, there is a growing body of evidence showing these grid cell-like properties throughout the cortex. But for these grid cells to work, they need to know how the sensor is moving. This brings us to layer 5, the column's primary action output. When a layer 5 neuron fires to generate a motor command, like move the eye, along with sending that command to effector muscles, it also sends an efference copy, an internal carbon copy of that command, to its neighbors in layer 6 within the same column. The cells in layer 6 then use this movement information to perform path integration and update the column's current location on the map. So we found our inputs, what from layer 4 and where from layer 6, calculated by motor commands of layer 5. Now we need to bind the two together. This is the job of the upper, layers 2-3 of the cortical column, which makes it a loose analog of the hippocampus. These layers receive both the sensory input from below and the location context from deeper layers. Technically, the location information is not sent directly up the column. Instead, neurons in layer 6 communicate with upper layers via thalamus, broadcasting positional information. A layer 2-3 neuron then learns to represent complete objects by binding sensory features with location. This is where the stable predictive model is formed. Finally, there is layer 1, the very top layer. It contains very few neurons and is mostly composed of neural wiring, dendrites and axons of neurons whose cell bodies are located in other layers. This is where the location signal from layer 6 arrives, priming the dendrites of the neurons below and setting up the column's predictions. And with that, we have the complete circuit.
And beyond that, Ben, it's also like what he was talking about earlier. Basically, all of these columns, these 150,000 columns, doing like a majority vote system sounds very similar to, and it would, right? The idea of like mixture of experts with majority voting in the AI space, right? Like where all of these different things are providing feedback, and then somewhere in here, somebody is tallying all the votes and coming up with, you know, the most likely outcome. And again, like, there is why I'm so like loud about the idea of you know, the mixture of experts, right? Like it shouldn't just be some computer science dudes creating AI. It needs to be computer science dudes and brain dudes and friggin' sociologist dudes, or, you know, folk as opposed to dudes, folk, and like, and just all the different, as many different flavors of people as you can get into the participation, right? Because each of them brings something different to the mix, which can, like, you know, help you make different choices, see different ideas, see different perspectives that you might not have seen otherwise, and maybe go in a different direction and try different things out, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And again, relate that back to the thing I said earlier, where I'm talking about, I don't want to hear why something can't work. That's, you know, tell me how you would make it work, because that's where there's value. That's where there's something interesting to talk about, right? That's what I want. I want all the people doing all the things to help us make the AI that can do all the things.
Beautiful self-contained modeling machine. Each column uses a sensory motor loop to build predictive models by binding sensory features to locations on the map. And what the column actually does, whether it's filling a coffee cup or solving a math problem, simply depends on the type of information arriving at layer 4 and the kind of sensor, physical or abstract, that the column controls. But if each column acts as its own mini-brain, how do we perceive the world as a single unified whole? This brings us to the crucial idea of voting. Imagine you're grasping a coffee cup in the dark. Your fingers all project two different sets of columns in your brain. Your thumb touches the handle, so its columns sense a C-shaped ceramic object. Your index finger is on the rim, so its columns sense a circular edge. In each column, the neurons in layer 2-3 represent possible explanations for the sensation. But a single sensation is ambiguous. The circular edge, felt by your index finger, could belong to a coffee cup, or a saucer, or a wine glass. As a result, multiple sets of neurons, each representing a different object, become partially active. The column is holding several hypotheses at once. The columns of the thumb face the same problem. Their C-shaped sensation is consistent with a coffee cup handle, a teapot spout, or even a cabinet drawer, causing several groups of neurons in layer 2-3 to become partially active. Notice the crucial point of overlap. The coffee cup is the only hypothesis that appears on both lists. It is the only object consistent with both the C-shaped handle and a circular rim in their correct locations. The Thousand Brains theory proposes that columns agree on this shared hypothesis through a rapid process of voting. This reveals a key architectural feature. Each column has two distinct outputs. The first, from layer 5, sends motor commands to act on the world, as we saw previously. The second, from layer 2-3, sends signals sideways to other columns. Its purpose is not to move a muscle, but to reach a consensus by refining predictions and resolving ambiguity. Here is roughly how the voting process unfolds. In the first milliseconds after you place your fingers on the cup, the network is a noisy chatter of conflicting hypotheses. But very quickly, the neurons in layer 2-3 in different columns begin to vote. Consider the coffee cup neurons in your index finger column. They receive convergent evidence, the bottom-up sensory data for a circular rim, and supporting votes from the coffee cup neurons in your thumb column. This reinforces the coffee cup hypothesis by driving those neurons to fire more strongly. Meanwhile, the wine glass neurons are in trouble. They have local sensory evidence, but they receive no supporting votes from the thumb column. Lacking this reinforcement, their activation fades, and they're suppressed by the strong activation of their coffee cup neighbors. This creates a kind of rich-get-richer cascade. As the coffee cup neurons fire more strongly, they send out more powerful votes, which further reinforces the coffee cup neurons in other columns. The result is a rapid convergence. In a fraction of a second, the one hypothesis that is mutually consistent across the network amplifies itself into a stable, unified consensus. All competing inconsistent hypotheses are silenced, and your brain arrives at a single unified perception. So far, we've used concrete examples, like touching a statue or holding a coffee cup. But the real power of the Thousand Brains theory lies in how it scales from physical motion to higher, more abstract forms of human thought. The theory makes a beautiful and simple proposal that the underlying algorithm is identical. It's just using a different kind of sensor and a different kind of movement. The input arriving at a column's layer 4 doesn't have to come from our skin or eyes. It can come from the layer 2-3 output of other columns. In this view, the stable perception of a coffee cup from a lower level column can become the sensory input to a column higher in the cortical hierarchy. And what is the motor command? Well, instead of moving a finger, this higher level column issues a command to shift the attention, directing which sets of lower level columns provide the next piece of input. Imagine tackling a complex logical problem. You are, in essence, navigating a conceptual space. Each step, like recalling a fact, applying a rule, or focusing on a sub-problem, is a mental move that takes you to a new location in the problem's abstract terrain. As you trace this journey, guided by rules learned from past experience, your cortical columns are executing the very same algorithm they use when exploring a statue in the dark. This offers a compelling and unified view of the neocortex, a vast network of thousands of mini-brains, each learning a predictive model of its surroundings by binding sensations to locations on a reference frame derived from movement. Of course, this theory is still a work in progress, and many aspects of brain function don't fit so neatly into this picture. But it is an important first step, and it provides a powerful conceptual framework of thinking about intelligence in a new way. One that brings together anatomy, physiology, and behavior under a single unifying umbrella. A central theme of our discussion today is that learning is not a passive process. The brain builds its powerful models not just by seeing, but by doing. By moving, interacting, and actively exploring the problem. This philosophy of active learning is exactly why I'm excited to tell you about our sponsor, Brilliant.org. Brilliant is an...
Not brilliant. Oh, you were doing so well. All right, but he did earn it. So I'll take him off the big screen and I will play out the video. Realistically, a person would probably turn on a nearby light before trying to grab a cup. Trying to grab a cup in pitch darkness is silly if you have your sight. I now understand why you hate analogies. And scene.
Rather than just passively reading.
I understand the usefulness of analogies and metaphors and everything else. But ultimately, what I often find is that people aren't doing like metaphors or analogies, they're doing justifications and will twist their metaphor to conform to whatever they want without actually thinking about whether or not the metaphor is a good metaphor. You know what I mean? You can't always turn on a light. This is true.
Brilliant is a phenomenal way to
but yes,
to get started, head to brilliant.org/ArtemKirsanov to claim your 30-day free trial of everything.
But it's something to think about. It's thinking about thinking, right? And like,
if you enjoyed the video, share it.
You can really get into, and you shouldn't do it too much, right? Everything in moderation, but paying attention to like the whole concept of like being in the moment is, you know, like really engaging in what you're experiencing when you are experiencing something, right? Like right now I am actively focused in, dialed in to like how my fingers are interacting with this object. I'm not really looking at the object. I kind of have it out of my peripheral, but like I'm really dialed into the way my fingertips are interacting with it. It's a good thing to do. The whole touch grass thing. There's a thing that some people do called grounding, right? Like where you take your bare ass feet, and it's not for everybody. I'm not saying that everyone, you know, needs to do it. Some people have sensory issues or sensory things and like that. But putting your feet in the grass, right? And like really feeling your feet in the grass and really feeling that and focusing on those things. You know what I mean? To kind of get yourself out of the active loop of thinking about a whole bunch of shit and instead just feeling this moment and being aware of yourself. She Snaps talks about this kind of thing sometimes. Important thing, you know what I mean? I am not dissing anyone, kleptomaniac. It's just, it's a thing that you can do, right? It's a thing that you can do. And you don't necessarily have to go outside, right? Like, some people do stimming, right? From a variety of different stuff. Like, you can think about those. When dealing with abstract concepts, you don't always use senses. Like, I can often map out coding or pseudo-coding in my head before I even touch a computer. And you'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war. Stellar Wingman, thank you for 6 months. Yo! In advance. Contractually obligating me to continue to come back. No, thank you very much, Hobie. I appreciate it. Yeah, it is like there is value in slowing the active portions of your brain down and being aware of your surroundings, right? Senator said something earlier about like there's value to understanding things in the dark, right? Like I am very good at spatial relationships and where objects are, and I can maneuver through my house in, pitch blackness because I know where everything is and my mental map is well constructed. But not everyone has that, right? Like there are, aphantasia. There are like, people are on a scale when it comes to imagining things, right? Like if I say, picture a bowl of rice, right? Something simple. Picture a bowl of rice. Now, some of you have a bowl. It's got rice in it. It may be in your hands. It may be on the counter, right? There's a bunch of details that get filled in. What color is the bowl? What is the color of your bowl white because the rice is white and I didn't mention a color, so your brain associated white, with the rice to white with the bowl? Did you pick a different color because it matches the color of the bowls that you have already in your house? These kind of things, the location of it. Other people, they can't imagine an image of a bowl of rice, right? Like they're imagining a bowl of rice is much more abstract because they don't have because of aphantasia or something like that. Stellar Wingman picture brown rice, right? There's a whole other angle, you know what I mean? My addiction to horse girl gotcha games is a lot like putting my feet in the grass, I watched Celticness play that for 15 minutes and it felt like an out-of-body experience, like a disassociation. I was on a whole, and if you don't know what we're talking about, good. I'm not going to be the one. There's a whole thing going on in the world, and I don't know that anyone needs to know about it. Rub your face on the grass. Listen to how the blades brush up against your skin. Some people call it sounding. Some people do. Brown rice, white bowl. There you go. I just pictured a blurry bowl of rice with no details because I wasn't prompted for details. There you go. Like this is the whole thing. And then Larry, of course, has to be difficult. Petting a cat at night is interesting. I run my hand over the tail. If it's stumpy, it's Emmanuel. If it's a full-length tail, it's Azora. Yeah. Like, and God, I love this job. All right. We are moving on. Exactly. Gemini gets new video features, apparently.
With the friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and press like button. Stay tuned.
Oh, yeah. If anybody wants to watch that video again or share it with others. And their videos are good, right? And they're all presented in this way, which I like, right? You can talk about high-level concepts in a way that's generally approachable, and they do a good job with it.
And for more neuroscience and machine learning topics coming up.
This is really AI Ultra, AI Pro users of Google being able to keep up with what perhaps you're already getting on an OpenAI or with a Runway, for example?
Yes, this is a feature that will be available to paid Gemini users, and it is a technology that Google first launched at its I/O developer conference back in May. But this makes it available to a much broader swath of users, allowing it, as you said, to better keep pace with rivals, and it does have many rivals in this space.
It does have rivals. It does also have a stop-start feeling to Google, because many would say, look, they were the reason, their underlying research is why we've got generative AI in the first place, with the transformer perspective. But they had this sort of inevitable feeling that they were losing pace with rivals. Then they had the issue about whether or not there was some generative AI image features that changed people's race, or there was a sort of a concern there. This is being replicated again in the video, or no?
Yes, so Google had a while ago paused certain generative AI features just for that reason. But
I'm going to let this run. I will be right back. I got to use the bathroom.
Here, there are some guardrails in place. That said, we tested it ourselves, and the results were both fascinating and somewhat mixed. For instance, reporter Natalie Lung, who is Asian, she did include a photo of herself, and the AI did change her race in one of the videos without her asking it to. Other goofs, we did ask for a video of someone breakdancing. We did not see any breakdancing, sadly. The AI did follow other instructions we gave faithfully, but not that one. So the results were mixed, and we do expect the technology to improve.
And people do seem to really love what's been coming out in terms of image generation coming from Google and Gemini writ large of late. But meanwhile, Apple, everyone still thinks is behind the curve when it comes to AI. It's interesting, we got a note out today with analysts really talking about how maybe it's time to replace Tim Cook even. We were hearing some view that really the AI focus is what needs to win here from a product perspective, rather than having someone in charge who owns the supply chain. But the fierce talent for AI, the war going on, is an amazing scoop that Mark Gurman's been bringing us all week. And now we understand 200 million might have been parted with to nab their head of AI.
A pay package worth more than $200 million. And I should say that this package does include not just a base salary and a signing bonus, but stock options. And there are a few things tied to that. One, someone would have to stay with the company for a certain period of time, so they wouldn't get all that money if they left early. And it also is tied to the performance of the stock. So it does assume that the stock would reach certain levels. So if it doesn't, someone wouldn't receive that quite that large of a pay package in the end.
Chair reacting to the news is ethical reacts because, you know.
And that is, of course, all as we see transfer of talent going from Apple to Meta, or everyone to Meta, as Mark Zuckerberg is all in on winning the superintelligence race. Where are we, though, with the feeling around Apple right now as to ultimately whether its business model is really necessary to be the generative AI developer of choice, or whether it ultimately can just be the generative AI product user of choice? We just go to it to use other AI offerings.
So just given its overall stock performance and its market cap, I really hesitate to call it struggling.
Yes.
But I think its struggles in AI specifically have been well documented. I think
What exactly is a tech millionaire?
It's a lot like a regular millionaire, but with a hoodie and crippling social anxiety.
That wasn't helpful at all.
That was super loud. Sorry. Oh, we're doing that. We're doing the wake up classes every so often today.
Hardware hit have been well documented. I think we know that the Vision Pro has not been a great seller, even though reviewers and sort of tech enthusiasts have praised it for being innovative. Yes, the company does have ways to go in AI, and certainly the poaching is yet another setback in that space.
OpenAI is reportedly.
All right. More news. No goats. More news. AI browsers eye Google's turf.
Set to launch a new AI-powered browser in the coming weeks, just as Perplexity launches its own one called Comet. Deirdre Bosa has more on the newest battlefront here in today's Tech Check, the AI battlefront, Deirdre, that I still haven't checked it out, but I'm very curious to see if these things can really work.
Well, you're in luck. I have checked out Comet, so I'll tell you all about it. But the new to Battlefront you mentioned, you're right, it is AI. So it's not just a user interface upgrade. This is a full-blown interface shift. No longer just a window, but the agent. And it's really interesting that it's two AI native startups, Perplexity and OpenAI, racing to really redefine what is the internet's front door. Now, as I mentioned, I got early access to Perplexity's Comet browser, and the most unique feature that I found so far is the Comet Assistant, which is built in. So first I had to approve a very uncomfortable amount of access to my personal accounts, but that's what you got to do to get this thing to work. And once I did, it could sort through my Gmail, for example, for lists that I should unsubscribe to. It could also look through my LinkedIn for noteworthy inbound connection requests. Now, there's also an assistant sidebar that stays up while browsing the web that really helps streamline as I sort of browse versus switching between a million different tabs. Now, other users have complained of the agent hallucinating when doing more complicated tasks like booking stuff. But even so, the direction here is clear, Kelly. This is a browser that isn't just showing you the internet, it's actually trying to use it for you. And these are still early days. OpenAI, with many more users, data, and reach, reportedly working on its own. So this could really be a game changer. And here's the bottom line for investors. New AI browsers, they could threaten Google on two fronts, Search and Chrome, by replacing both of them with an AI layer that sits on top of the web. So this isn't just about who builds the better browser. It's really about who owns the default interface to user intent, which has always been the case.
So expect a Google AI browser sooner rather than later.
But that is certainly being redefined in the AI era.
It was the first thing when I talked to a few people about if they'd use the browser. A lot of people were a little hesitant about linking up all of their really personal stuff to it. You know, these are new companies, it's unclear a lot of the usage policies. You already hear stuff about like ChatGPT using one person's input for work to give someone else output on like corporate information. So can you give us more examples of how you use this in practice when found that either it worked or in executing tasks or couldn't work?
I mean, one of the really surprising things first is that it works just like an actual browser, right? It's really that assistant, what it can do for you. And I've only been playing around with it for a few days, but it does help things like prioritize email. And Kelly, I hear you on giving it so much data. I mean, that's where I hesitated. The list was so long that I had to approve to give access to.
Well, we did watch that one video about how LLMs and chat GPT are like affecting how people communicate. So, how do you AI augment the PageRank algorithm? Way outside my wheelhouse, so I do not know.
But that's always the case with AI, right? The more data you give it, the more personal data you give it, and memory, the more useful it is for you. So I'm kind of eager to see how much more useful it gets as I continue to use it. I still haven't made that full switch from Chrome, what I normally use, to Comet. But again, I'll continue testing it out over the last few days, and it does feel like a game changer.
It's why I think
we'll see how useful and where it trips up.
For sure, and I do think Apple has an edge here because we all kind of trust it with a lot of our information already. So if they can use that to kind of work between apps or be an agent for,
Exactly, right? Like, there are a lot of people, when they go to a website and they can set up an email and password, and down below that it says log in with Gmail or log in with Google, log in with Facebook, log in with whatever the fuck, they will click that log in with Google button. And so that's going to give, potentially, if Google has a product to release in this thing, is do exactly that, right? Like, because your people will be more comfortable with Google having all their information because they already have all the information already. It could be Stellar Wingman. Like, that is one of the things. Now, at this point in time, we haven't seen that in spite of all the different browsers we already have. Whether or not that AI layer on top of that causes that siloing to occur, we'll just have to wait and see.
Oh, a big if, for sure. Quickly, Deirdre, Grok 4 launched today.
I've got that with Firefox. Firefox lets me use fake email addresses that then forward to my real email address. It's neat.
This morning, recently, And according to all the researchers, it's fabulous. It might be the best model out there now. I'm a little confused on how to access it. I have the Grok app, but it still tells me I've got Grok 3. And I'm just thinking through the implications here for everything from Tesla to, you know, X itself to all the other pieces of Musk's empire. And the point.
Can you? There was a time on this world where if your product called itself Mecha Hitler, that would be the end of your career, right? That would be the end of all your stuff. That you would just be over. And apparently we're not doing that anymore. What up, Monochromatic? Yeah, you'd be out of business, right? Like a minor, one dude got on stage while running for president and went, yeah! And that was the end of his presidential run. And now here we are. What world do we live in? Right, Larry. What happened to Tay, right? Is Tay better or worse than Grok 3 Mecha Hitler?
That Dan Ives the other day made, which was he thinks that Tesla should give Musk more voting shares so he could just go ahead and combine XAI into Tesla. And Musk made some comments about using Grok in Teslas themselves. So here comes Grok 4, and it's now the splashy new thing on the scene.
To all the Tesla owners who might see this video, I wish you the best of luck.
Mm-hmm. So the implications, you're absolutely right, especially the idea of it being put into Teslas. The implications are huge. It could give XAI, it could give Elon Musk a huge leg up in sort of the AI arms race. And it gets at this idea of build versus rent, right? Elon Musk is trying to vertically integrate everything versus, say, an Amazon, which may be doubling down investment on Anthropic, right? In that case, it's turning to a third party. So is Apple. There is sort of this thought in Silicon Valley that you do want to own the whole stack. You want to be vertically integrated, and that gives you the best chance at sort of deploying products and having the research side and the proprietary technology. With Grok 4, I've seen a lot of Elon Musk fans say that it's the greatest out there, but I asked someone this morning, a source that, you know, I believe is really neutral, if it was really that good, and he says he wants to wait to see.
First of all, Stellar Wingman, I'm going to find a newspaper and I'm going to hit you on the nose with it and tell you bad. All right, but we have those... Gemini does that. There's actually an entire video that we covered a while back with some dipshit talking shit about the advertisements for Google. And one of the things that they talked shit about was this dude using Gemini to tell them about the space. And it was because the person had, like, visually impaired, right? But of course, the dipshit who doing the AI bad thing couldn't get out of their own way long enough to actually pay attention to what they were watching. They actually had to be fucking edgy.
See how it ranks on lmarena.ai, which is really the third party that a lot in the industry go to.
And the normies are talking about fucking LM Arena. This is where we're at. Holy shit.
For a trusted source on how good these benchmarks are. So we haven't seen that yet.
So Bosa is great. I got nothing like... I'm going to go with she, but they do a good job of understanding what the fuck they're talking about.
Ooh, so maybe suspend your enthusiasm.
Absolutely. Now I'm curious for those results. Absolutely. And of course, to use it myself if I can figure out how. Deirdre, for now, really appreciate it. Thank you today.
Apple recently released a new research report that is debunking...
Okay. I've been trying to get, what do we got? A little over half an hour. This is 20 minutes. That should be right. Let's give it a try. I've been trying to get to this one. Everyone is lying about AI, which comes as news to me because I didn't realize I was lying about AI, but apparently everyone is. And they're going to give us proof, and I look forward to this video going in some particular way. I don't know that the comparison is apt, however. Corporations are totalitarian. A large company doesn't necessarily have to consider the social consequences making poor business decisions. A presidential candidate faces different pressures. But do they? First off, I'm just saying. Look at the context that we currently live under, and do they? But even that, like, corporations have been held to social consequences, right? Like that has occurred in the past. And again, we just continue to move farther and farther away to where more and more is permitted. And more when it happens, even if it offends our sensibilities, we all kind of move on from it, because there's a new thing, right? Like there just always seems to be more new thing happening, which is disrupting our ability to like hold certain entities accountable when things happen. All right, strap in, everybody. Let's go.
Much of the hype around the current AI craze, or so they claim, in a new report entitled The Illusion of Thinking, Understanding the Strengths and Limitations of Reasoning Models via the Lens of Problem Complexity. It got me thinking that I'm seeing two categories of folks right now when it comes to AI. The first is those who are frozen by AI. They don't really understand what the technology does. They don't really understand what it's capable of right now versus what it's not. And they have sort of a dystopian view of the future, which is unfounded based on the present state of the technology.
Historically, yes, they face different pressures. Citizens don't vote for CEOs. True. It was a bad analogy, apparently. 13-letter word in last Sunday's New York Times crossword. The clue was eerie phenomena when a robot seems too lifelike. Uncanny Valley? This Apple research paper that took the tools away and forced the AI to answer a puzzle in a short time. Yes. Again, you must be able to complete an 8-piece Tower of Hanoi problem before you can use the Apple AI paper as being indicative of anything. Purdue Pharma did what they did today, they'd be excused. Yes. I watched someone dissect the research paper on this. Apparently the researcher said there wasn't enough proof in the research. Absolutely. And
the second is those who are building with it, those who really understand what it does, how it works, its real capabilities, its weaknesses, and who are using this to build massive leverage for themselves. After I published my last video, I saw the same fears and misunderstandings over and over again in the comments. And they basically were like, you don't get it, it's already smarter than humans, and we're doomed, and it's mass unemployment, and so forth. And I realized something, which is most people reacting to a myth, not the technology itself. And so in this video,
I'm not sure where he comes down on the paper, right? Like that's the thing. He kind of said it and like, both sides did a little bit and then moved the fuck on. So I'm not sure where he actually reflects on the Apple paper. But be careful, Hobie, because at a minute 9, you set up your premise, which is that people are reacting to a myth, not the technology yourself, and we're going to find out together, right? I took a Tower of Hanoi puzzle with real donuts to a police station. It was never... Is he running for office? Probably not. He's running for YouTube office with his, how many you got? 16,000 subscribers. Depends on who you ask, Ben. What up, Iggy?
I want to break down what AI really is, why it is both at the same time wildly overhyped in some areas and then wildly underhyped in others.
Okay.
Because if you get this wrong, you are not only missing out on what is going to be one of the biggest opportunities for leverage, freedom, and wealth creation in the modern world, but you're also going to spend a bunch of
getting vibes, right? Leverage, freedom, and wealth creation. When you tie those things together, there's a certain kind of content creator.
Time, energy, and effort investing in skills, investing in projects that aren't going to be relevant in 2 years. So I want to talk for a second about why I am both optimistic as well as skeptical about everything that's being discussed with AI right now.
Okay, that's fair. Oh yeah, no, here we go. Transform your skills into a mid 6 to 7 figure freelance business. He's one of those. He's one of those. Hey, maybe he's the good one. Maybe he knows what he's doing. It's true because people are using it for things it's least useful at. Yes. Also, there's a tendency for a lot of people, and like I'll break this into smaller and smaller columns. So there's a tendency for people to have used AI, and gotten a poor outcome and never gone back and looked again. And that leads to, that like it's still the same, right? Like the whole 7 fingers, right? AI can't draw hands thing, right? There are still people to this day saying AI can't draw hands, right? Like, and that's a solved problem. No, I know, I understand, but I'm using that statement as a jumping off point to speak broadly about people as a whole. Now, again, I am in agreement that there are people who use AI for stuff that it's not particularly good at, and there are people who overhype certain aspects of the AI. Like that's an issue, right? Like I'm in the middle, listening to these fucking dipshits on the internet go right after artists who are losing, their livelihoods and attacking them, using AI as a lever point. That's fucking annoying as shit, and I want them to stop. Like I'm in that boat too, right? Like, so so back to the thing. There are people who used AI, got a bad outcome, and assume that it never changed. And there are people who use AI poorly to do a particular task and assume that the problem is with the AI itself, as opposed to being with how they worked with the tool, right? They took out an electric drill and they proceeded to nail in a nail with it, and wondered why they got a big mess and it didn't really nail the nail in well. Like they're you have to do self-reflection like you do with any use of a new tool kind of thing. All right, here we go.
Spent my entire career in technology, and I can tell you that founders, as a rule, dramatically overstate, read lie, about the capabilities of their technology, both to get press and for marketing purposes. I'll give you just a few examples, but I could make a...
And this is true of every business, right? If you do advertising, you often overstate the capabilities of your product, right? Like, again, CEOs are 95% PR dudes and 5% providing the company with direction, right? Like that's how that works.
Whole video just about the claims that I've heard founders make with their technology of what turned out to be absolute nonsense. So I worked with a company who had a, quote, matching algorithm that was supposed to predict the success of a retail business in a given available retail space. And this was, by the way, using machine learning and AI, a lot of the stuff we're still talking about now. But what was that algorithm actually? It was this very rich guy's 19-year-old son sitting at a coffee table in his expansive West Hollywood offices, flipping through CoStar listings, which is like Zillow for commercial properties, deciding what he thought might work in a given space and then plugging it back into the system. I had a security.
Okay, so that would be a lie. Yes. That's builder AI, where it wasn't actually using AI to help with coding. It was firing your coding problems off to India to have people there work on it and then send them back to you, right? Literally the meme that people believed that AI wasn't actually AI. It was actually a bunch of people in the global south who were just furiously typing on their keyboards, responding to people. They did it in real life, and that also causes nothing but problems.
Company that was supposedly using their proprietary threat algorithm to rank threats for CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, using their threat matrix. Okay, this was another proprietary algorithm using machine learning and so forth. What that proprietary algorithm was basically a small team in India that was looking at IT tickets and ranking lost laptops, like by red or yellow or green, depending on, who the person was and what the severity of the information that was probably on their laptop.
There's a lot of bad faith attempts to use AI. There's a lot of bad faith. Like, again, did you have a bad time with the AI? Show me your prompt. That's going to be, because I come from, when I did customer service, I did IT, right? Like, basic IT, nowhere to what we're at now, but my brain goes to IT land, right? Before I call my cable company to fix a problem with my internet, I have already unplugged it and plugged it back in again, reset my router, done all the things, I go through all those steps because that's where my brain goes. And so when people say they had a bad time with the AI model, the first thing I want to see is your prompt, right? Before we look into the software, I want to talk about, like, the problem exists between keyboard and chair. On the topic of introspection, AI is actually great at helping you reflect on where you might be going wrong with an issue or project. It can do that. Yes, absolutely.
I was recently looking at an AI content repurposing tool, the back end of this thing with their product team, and talking about, how does this thing, and so the purpose of this tool is that it's supposed to flag viral, or it's supposed to pick out viral content from your long form content, and then it's going to repurpose it in a bunch of different ways. And I was like, so how does this thing pick out the viral content? All it's doing is picking out specific words, like anything that they see as elevated energy, crazy, or ridiculous, right? So it flags these specific words that are supposed to be viral when it has no idea of your intent of your content, the intent of what you're doing. And then it takes those words by transcript and repurposes them, basically cuts it into 30 and 60-second segments, starting slightly before and slightly after the clip. And then it uses pre-templated things to take transcript text and plug it in there. An amazing automation.
That actually makes a certain amount of sense in the context of a lot. It's using the shotgun method of content creation, right? It's just get a whole bunch of clips out there that any one of them might go viral, because you can't control what's going to go viral. And then once you get all those clips out there, you're just hoping that one of them catches on. So, like, this doesn't seem like an unreasonable product given the nature of the current environment.
A brain it is not. WeWork lost $16 billion in investment capital by saying that they were taking shared office space, and it was a tech company. And on my podcast,
yeah, but WeWork has a whole bunch of issues with it, not just the thing.
Udi Ledergor at the time he was the CMO of Gong. I asked him, what's the most important thing in startup marketing? And he made the comment, if you're in tech, you know who Udi is, that Startup marketing is all about talking about what you hope your product is going to do in 2 years in a way.
To that point, Larry, like knowing how the AI tool works, right? What it flags on allows me as a creator to like intentionally inflect something within a particular piece of content that will flag it for that automated creation process, right? It's like having an editor, to an extent, human editor, but having a human editor who watches my shit and then flags the portions that should be clipped out. I can do that with a signal to the AI. Like, again, once you understand how the tool works, you can then work with it. So, to an extent, yeah.
It sounds like its present state. This is one of the guys who's been in the game as long as anybody. People wildly overstate the capabilities of their technology to get press. Full stop. So let's talk about what artificial intelligence actually is today, and if it is actually artificially intelligent at all. What we are calling AI right now is better phrased as natural language computing. There is actually almost nothing intelligent about what it's doing right now. AI is not thinking.
All right, so we're defining intelligence in specific parameters, right? We're defining intelligence in specific parameters. And when you do that, it allows you to include, the stuff that you want to include and exclude the stuff that you don't want to include, right? And that's all that's happening here. This is his definition of intelligence. So when you say, and this is the argument that happens whenever I talk to people and why I defer to whatever their definition of artificial intelligence is, because it's so much easier than trying to get them to the point of having a broader umbrella view of what actually intelligence might be. What up, Digital? What up, Nick? Let's define thinking too while we're listening. I mean, intelligence is too vague. Learning is more unambiguous. It's a thing, right? He doesn't define intelligence. You have to infer what his definition of intelligence is from what he's saying. That's the key.
It is pattern matching. It does this very, very fast and very well, but it is simply pattern matching. So how does all this work?
It's simply pattern matching, okay? Remember what we did earlier, and this is why everything is a fucking thing, right? Like, this is what we do here. When we watch a fundamental unit of intelligence, when we watch this video, the cortical column does pattern matching. That's its fundamental purpose, is it matches existing patterns already within the system, right? This is why this is a terrible argument, right? You can't just hand wave and say, oh, it's just pattern matching, because pattern matching is an underlying fundamental unit of intelligence. It does, man. That I think is without a question.
Here's what happens when you ask ChatGPT a question. Let's say you say, I'm hungry. What should I eat for lunch? AI, or ChatGPT, or whatever model you use, takes that and breaks it down into what's called tokens, which is just pieces of that phrase, that's syntax. And each one gets a...
Again, monochromatic, we can only infer, right? Like, that's the thing. Unless you clearly define your terms, and unfortunately for a lot of people, the debate bro space has ruined the concept of defining your terms. What up, Hydrant? Like, if you want to talk about defining terms, then people can react poorly to having that discussion because they think you're debate broing them, and I am most assuredly not trying to. I'm just trying to agree on a shared reality so we can all have a conversation.
Mathematical value attached to it. That gets pushed into a predictive algorithm, which basically says these tokens in this order, what is statistically most likely going to be the response to this, the next thing that comes after these tokens are presented. That's it. It's a very advanced probability engine. And the reason, by the way, that this,
and again, that is very similar. I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm not saying it's one-to-one. I'm saying it's very similar to the way that the cortical columns function, right? In their voting system. The one portion, the one neuron said it was a glass of, wine glass, and that was not, it didn't receive the correct feedback, and it didn't get boosted in the algorithm, so therefore it was voted on by those as to not be the case. What up, Crix? Oh, we love pedantry around here.
Thing was such a breakthrough and works with any degree of accuracy in its present state is one. The big breakthrough for modern LLMs, large language models, was this insight that they thought if we threw enough data at these models, that they would get better. And they did. And at the time, a lot of people didn't actually believe that that was the case. They didn't necessarily think that all these folks or these models would just get better with more and more data. The second thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is these models are essentially trained just by millions and millions of interactions from people. It's not thinking about anything. They reinforce the statistical probability with very low wage work, which basically says, what?
Okay, so he's conflating a few different ideas here, right? Yes, we've covered on, and I alluded to it earlier with the whole thing, but there are a bunch of people in the global south who are getting paid poorly or not at all in order to label data, or at least there were. I don't know how much that is continuing to be the case. There's a bunch of stuff about models that are capable of working with unlabeled data. There's a bunch of stuff about models being able to self-label data. There's that. But then also, like, to say that they are not thinking, again, we haven't defined what he means when he's talking about thinking. Reasoning is another term that makes some people lose their shit, because whatever it's doing isn't actually reasoning, because it's not what the human does, but they can't actually like define what it is that humans do when they reason either. It's a whole fucking thing.
What is going to come next in this sentence? You present it to people over millions of iterations and they verify what should come next in the sequence. That's how these models work. And they're doing that now. There's full companies out there that are providing outsourced labor for like higher skilled results. So they're helping.
And that too, that's another thing, kleptomania, is that like how much of that labeling needs to be done anymore, or have we done that in a sufficient volume where we don't have to do that anymore? And that's a question. The problem we have is that there is a opacity to the way that these companies function, where they're not giving us that data in order to actually understand what's actually going on. And we are not going to finish this video. It was 20 minutes and we had a half an hour. What's happening?
Connect companies with doctors or lawyers or accountants who are going to train models further based on human reinforcement to these models. If you're in ChatGPT and you see it's like, which response do you prefer? You are training the model for it. It's not thinking about anything. It's just pattern matching. And if you ever wondered...
Yeah, this guy has some understanding, enough understanding to be dangerous, but not enough understanding to be like... And admittedly, we do a lot of stuff. We go through a lot of stuff. So we are more aware of the current things that are going on, like with Sakana AI as an example, right? Like where that ranks in its ability the ideas of teacher models, the ideas of models that can function without reinforcement learning from human feedback, but actually do the thing themselves. So, on one hand, he's out of date. And on another hand, I don't think he has as firm a grasp of the ideas he's talking about. Caveat about the poor wages. From my understanding, they were being paid roughly the average pay for the region, if anything. It's exposing the underlying contradictions with capitalism and globalization. Yes, and that may be the case. There is, of course, that issue that I don't want to particularly get into at this point in time, but like the value of like $2 an hour has a different value in one location than it does in another.
Just like a tech millionaire.
That came out of nowhere. The just like a tech millionaire. In the same way that like $30,000 a year in Buffalo, New York is different than $30,000 a year in Los Angeles, California, right? Like there are just, it's, the cost of living varies from place to place. However, we have seen stories of people who did the work and then just didn't get paid anything, right? Their contracts were ended. They violated some terms of what they were doing, allegedly, right? Like there's all sorts of bullshit that, again, because of a lack of transparency, it makes it very difficult to have an objective view of how these companies are treating people. And you can comfortably default to the company is treating their employees and contractors poorly because gestures broadly at everything.
Why you sometimes get totally weird results out of ChatGPT that make no sense. There's something in the models called temperature.
Not just.
And what temperature is basically, so let's say you ask the question, I'm hungry, what should I eat for lunch? And in 90% of the instances that this thing's been trained on, people say you should have a sandwich. But in 0.01% of the instances, people say you should have marker with hot sauce. Even though that doesn't make any sense, 0.01% of the time people say that. And if you set the temperature to 0, it simply is going to tell you the most likely next word. So the 90% of the time thing. And if you set it to 1, it's going to start doing crazy stuff like telling you to eat a marker for lunch.
It can do that. Temperature, this is correct. Temperature, I think, was a poor term to use, right? With Suno, they do this down here, weirdness, right? Turn it up for wild, unexpected results. This is temperature. But they called it weirdness, and weirdness feels better. You know what I mean? It feels more accurate to, especially to the layman, with what you're going to get. You know, if you want something like, within rote, then you're going to turn your weirdness way down. If you're trying for something Frank Zappa-esque, then you're going to crank that bad boy up. And then there's style influence.
That is the level of, quote, intelligence that we are currently dealing with. And by the way, even Sam Altman, the OpenAI founder, has said these models are really just really good next word predictors. He doesn't share much.
Is that what he said? Language models just being programmed to try and predict the next word is true, but it's not the dunk that some people think it is. And your man out here just came out to use it as a dunk. Animals, including us, are just programmed to try and survive and reproduce, and yet amazingly complex and beautiful stuff comes out of it. The concept of emergent behavior. How do you turn your weirdness down, Crix? I don't think you could. And that's not a dunk.
Models are really just really good next word predictors. He doesn't share much of this dystopian fear around, the tool is going to take over and so forth. This is very much in human control, and we are a very long way. We'll talk more about, too, the limitations of the current technology we have and why there's a huge probability that this dystopian future everyone has, that to go from natural language computing to any sort of true AI is simply, it's
true AI. What is true AI, sir? Define true AI. A lot of people, when they think about true AI, what they mean is HAL 9000, is Skynet, is these kind of things, right? Like they're basically human but silicon, right? Like that's what they mean. But they don't say that. They say true AI, which is a nebulous statement. They might monochromatic, that's the thing, right? By not defining your terms, you cannot, like, we have to intuit what they mean. And maybe they mean AGI, right? But then maybe they mean super intelligence. Like, what is true AI to you? You have to tell me what it is. Passing a Turing test, again, we talked about this earlier. Passing the Turing test is relatively easy at this point. The Turing test is just, could this be a human that you're talking to? And for a lot of people, again, people thought that when you typed in a prompt into the AI chatbot, that it was whisking off to India and some folks were pounding out responses and then it was coming back. So for those people, the AI had already passed the Turing test because they thought it must be people on the other end of this.
One doesn't get you to the other. And we'll also talk about what the opportunity is right now for folks with the technology as it sits today. So a quote from Altman talking about GPT-4. Basically, he says you should not rely on this thing for accurate information. In another article, he explains, over the last 6 months, he has also been working to lower the bar for his predictions around...
I mean, this is from December, but go off.
...around AGI. And what he says here is, my guess is we will hit AGI. We'll talk about how he defines artificial general intelligence and if it's...
I want to look at your clip, Michael, but we got 2 minutes, and I'm trying to get through as much of this as possible.
...really a proxy for intelligence. We're going to hit AGI sooner than most people think, and it's going to matter much less. The world mostly goes on in mostly the same way. Things grow faster, but then there's a long continuation from what we call AGI to what we call super intelligence. Gary Marcus, who is another prominent figure in the AI movement, has basically said, without mixing words on the whole thing, that anyone who thinks LLMs are a direct route to AGI is kidding themselves.
And this is an opinion that a bunch of people have, that LLMs are not a direct path to AGI, right? Jan LeCun over at Meta, perfect example. There are other people who are also very smart, like Ilya Sutskever, who believe that LLMs are a direct path to AGI. I don't have an opinion on whether or not that's true. I think I said this before, I think the manifestation of AGI is going to look like a bunch of narrow AIs with a governor AI on top that chooses, the model or mixture of experts in order to use. And like that. So
and we can see some commentary here from Josh Wolf, who's a respected guy in the VC space, talking about basically how at complex reasoning, these models
and now he's cherry picking. So now because he's using Josh Wolf here as an example, and Josh Wolf is obviously on the Apple reasoning test you know, it can be taken for more than it actually is. We know where he stands. And unfortunately, it's noon. It's noon. It's noon. Here's the video if you wanted to watch the rest of it. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. It's time. It's time. It's Vader time. Again, I will be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. And we'll do another one of these just like this one. And then I will not be back until Monday at 1 o'clock. All times are Eastern. I think AGI will be after the narrow LLMs hit their limit, when they figure out that reasoning between the narrow ones is costing too much. Need to go back to redefining the algorithms until they deprecate the need for narrow ones again. It's distinctly possible. Like, it's also possible that the path to AGI and superintelligence and any of these other ones lies down an entirely different architectural path, right? I don't know. You know what I mean? What's fun, monochromatic, is that what up, Allie? Is at this point in time, pretty much any theory is valid as long as you can kind of structure it in a way that is compelling, you know, because we don't know. And that's what's great about the here and now. And that's what's great about y'all. I appreciate every single fucking one of you. This has been great. You've been great. I've been Glovis. Drink your water, eat some food, take your meds if you forgot, and always remember that Shuggy loves you. So do I. Be great. What up, Fancy Pudding?